the final day of preliminaries in the FTX road to Miami, and two players have actually already secured their spot in the knockout stage. Tour debutant Samuel Sevian, the 21-year-old mega talent from the US, and the youngest player in the tournament, 18-year-old Arjun Ergaisi. And actually, if you add their age together, you get the age of Levon Aronian. Some of the top dogs in the tournament have really struggled in the preliminaries, and they have to fight hard today to qualify for the quarterfinals. So welcome everyone to a dramatic day in the FTX road to Miami.
There we go. The avalanche continues.
Oh, what's happening on the bar?
3 seconds.
1 second.
Has to make a move.
Wow.
These guys are maniacs. Incredible game.
Pure panic from Shakriar.
He's going to show the checkmate to us.
Wow.
Why did he give up this pawn?
Panic.
This diagonal, and he has.
I can't believe he's done that.
The players are so lost.
He's just blundered.
He's lost his rook.
And it's over. Dingli Ren, his first smile so far in the tournament. 16 players will become 8 after today. 8 players going through to the knockout stage in the FTX road to Miami. And as always, I'm joined in the studio by all the chess masters: International Master Jovanka, Grandmaster Simon Williams, and Grandmaster David Howell. And these day 4s in the preliminaries, David, they are often quite dramatic.
They are always dramatic. It always seems to go down to the last couple of moves. It always seems to be decided, that magical 8th spot, who qualifies for the knockouts. Yeah, it tends to be decided with a blunder or by nerves or something. So, yeah, I'm expecting the same amount of drama today. It's going to be, especially for those guys in the middle of the pack, the experienced players, it's going to be really, really crunch time for them.
Yeah, but with that experience, Simon, for players like Anish Giri, Levon Aronian, Shakriar Mamdjarov, can they just bring the A game when they know they have to today?
I think they got a better chance because obviously they have that experience you mentioned. So it's really turning on the switch, right? So you've got it inside you, and you just got to get in the zone like you do in most sports or activities, and just like hypercharge and get into gear. And well, it's going to be so exciting to see who makes the cut now. So one of the most exciting days.
I know. Well, a couple of players, young players, Jovanka, have actually secured their spots in the knockout stage. Will they just relax today, or do you still expect some entertaining chess from players like Samuel Sevian?
Well, I think there's still a lot to play for. You know, Samuel Sevian has 28 broad points. 32 is the number to beat. If he can manage that, he will have scored the highest number in the preliminaries. So 32 is the number. So, you know, why not? Go for that and get those great tie breaks.
Absolutely. Well, Ju Wenjun, the only female player in the tournament, she was inside top 8 heading into yesterday, but it was a dramatic day for her. On day 3 in the preliminary, she lost one game because of disconnection, and she lost on time, and she did also struggle on the board in her fight to qualify for the knockout stage.
3, 2, ooh.
Goes black.
He's lost a lot of time by doing that.
He's lost time on the clock and on the board.
Yeah.
She got greedy just for one moment, so she's currently 2 pawns up, but it's all about black's pass pawn now being much stronger than the counterpart.
And a new queen is on the board, but okay, it doesn't change anything. Black is still completely winning.
She has resigned. Ju Wenjun losing to Lenya Dominguez.
Black's king is stuck, can't move.
Yeah.
Black's rook is stuck, protecting the B pawn.
It's a case where the bishop is stronger than the rook.
Yeah.
Because it stops black from queening, it supports his own pawns, and the A pawns can be a winner.
White's bishop is so beautiful. It cuts off the black king, it defends its own pawn, and the white bishop stops black's pawn promoting. It's like the dream piece. Oof, he doesn't look happy, he promotes. At least he's got his king active.
Yeah, it's a bit too slow, I expect here, isn't it?
I think one move too slow for black.
Yeah.
The problem is the black king can't stop the white B pawn. It can't relieve the duty of the black rook in time. It's one move too slow. There we go. Sam Sevian extends his lead.
Drama on the board, and okay, we're expecting rook takes pawn, and there we see Richard in full calculation mode.
Look at the coordination between his pieces here.
Beautiful.
I mean, the rook, the king, the bishop, the pawn. He's playing fantastic here. This must be the end now, because you're not even going to win that last black pawn. There's a threat of checkmate on the board, a threat against the bishop, and do we have a result now?
We do.
Yeah.
It's a win for Richard Report, and a very nice win. But a loss for Hans Niemann. These are the standings after 12 out of 15 rounds in the preliminaries. And Hans Niemann, with 5 losses in the last 7 games, he was furious with himself yesterday, and he is outside top 8. So, Simon, what is it about for young Hans Niemann now?
What I thought his interview yesterday was fantastic, actually. I thought it was good.
He was
good
so
TV.
angry.
He was so angry, but he was quite, he had a little smile, didn't he, as well? So it was kind of, was he that angry? I don't know, it was weird, you know. But he had a disaster, and I think he's one of the players who's very emotional.
Yeah.
So he's an emotional guy, and you're talking about the experience of some of the other players. He's got to really learn that, I think, to develop. He's got to learn to, you know, hold his emotions in and not go on tilt. He's still got a chance today if he gets a run of wins. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how he gets on.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough day for Hans Niemann. But his fellow American on top of the table, Samuel Sevian, he hasn't lost one single game so far, and he is 100% sure to qualify for the quarterfinals. So is Arjun Ergaisi, the 18-year-old, and Jan-Krzysztof Duda, having a great tournament. But players like Levon Aronian and Anish Giri in 7th and 8th place, they were the big favorites. What have they struggled a little bit? What has the chess games looked like, David?
In chess, we talk a lot about flow. So when you're in great form, the pieces seem to land on great squares, or the tactics work in your favor. And for Anish Giri, Levon Aronian, they just haven't gotten the flow yet. For Aronian, he lost 2 games at the beginning of the event. He won a couple here and there. He lost another one. It's just been up and down, really bumpy. Anish Giri, he's been a bit more solid, but yet to hit top form as well. So for those guys today, they just need to avoid any unnecessary mistakes, any unforced errors. If they can avoid defeat, they should still qualify, but they will want to try and end the prelims on a high to get into those knockouts and start playing as they can do and as they know they should be playing.
Yeah, and maybe feeling the pressure right now. The first round today starts in 8 minutes, and here are the first games coming up. Timur Ajabov, he has pulled out of the tournament because of sickness. That means Sam Shanklin gets a walkover win and 3 points in that game. Ju Wenjun, she starts off against Hans Niemann, and Hans, he has been on tilt. He needs to make a comeback today. Anish Giri, he's going to start off against Arjun Ergaisi. Jeffrey Chong also having a great tournament against Shakhriyar Mamdiyaro, both currently inside top 8. Samuel Sevian, the tournament leader, against his fellow American Lenia Dominguez. But we're going to start out following the game between Levon Aronian and Weiyi, both of them around that crucial 8th place, fighting to qualify. So what do you think about that game, Jovanka?
It's going to be very exciting. You know, Levon Aronian has the white pieces. He will be looking to maximise his chances. And we have Weiyi, who's actually trailing him, and he really needs to start making some moves and ideally begin with a victory.
Yeah. And after that game, Anish Giri against, Levon Aronian against Weiyi, we are going to keep talking about the 1972 World Chess Championship match. It is 50 years ago since it was played and Bobby Fischer became the world champion. And today we're going to dig into the very final game. David Howell will take us through the moves that happened in that final game in the match and throughout the day. Today we're also going to be joined by Ty Prue Zimmerman. He does all the stats for us in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. It's nice to see you again, Ty. How's life in the US?
Going good. Great to be here again.
Great to see you again. And it's that dramatic final day of preliminaries. Are a lot of players feeling the pressure now?
Yeah, so there's quite a few players who have good chances, but still need to do a little bit of work today. A couple players who have very slim chances, but the most pressure is on Aronian and Weiyi. Those are the two who are sitting right near 50% to qualify and could really go either direction.
Wow, so how perfect that we actually start out with that game. And Levon, he is above 50% to qualify, but will he have to win games today?
Yeah, so he only has 17 points right now, and it's probably going to take 20 to 22 points to get through, depending on how the day goes. 21 points would be enough to be pretty safe if he can get a win and a draw today. But if he only wins one game and gets to 20, that's like maybe 50%, maybe even a little less. So he has some work to do for sure.
And obviously we know that Timo Rajapov, he has pulled out, so everyone gets 3 points against him. And today that is Sam Shanklin, Weiyi, and Lenya Dominguez. Is that taking into account in those stats that you have, or will that update as the day goes by?
Now, so those stats do include the 3 forfeits that are in the future. Those games aren't randomized. We know those results when they get folded in. So that's why Weiyi has similar odds to Levon, despite being behind in the current standings, because he has those 3 future points banked. He's getting a win today, and then he has to do work in the other 2 rounds on top of it.
Absolutely.
But he's essentially a point ahead of Levon with 1 fewer games available.
All right, intense. And we also saw a player like Hans Niemann on 10%. So for him, I guess it's all about winning games.
Yep, Niemann and Dominguez are both around 10%. And if they just keep winning, they still have a chance too.
Exciting. Now, I also wanted to ask you about the top players here, the ones on top of the table. Samuel Sevian, tour debutant. Arjun Erigaisi. If we look at the tour rating and their performance rating, what does that look like for those 2?
So Erigaisi has a performance rating of 2892, just a fraction below that 2,900 mark we're always looking at. And then, of course, even above him, Sevian is at 2952 so far.
Wow. Wow, incredible. And these numbers that we're seeing is the actual tour rating. Jan-Krzysztof Duda, 28-17. I hear rumors that he can actually overtake Magnus Carlsen as the #1 rated player today. Is that correct?
That is correct. Magnus is at 28-22, currently #1 in the tour ratings overall. And Duda could pass him temporarily just by winning his first game. But if he wants to actually end the day ahead of Magnus, he's going to need to win 2 out of 3, with the third being a draw, or win all 3.
Whoa. That would be huge for Jan-Krzysztof Duda, obviously. Fantastic. Ty, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again after round 1, and we'll update those stats and take a look at the prognosis for the last 2 rounds.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. Ty is sitting in the US all the time, updating these stats to tell us who is most likely to qualify. And, well, we finished off talking about Duda. I mean, if he overtakes the #1 spot, will Magnus Carlsen know that?
Magnus will know that.
Yeah.
One thing about Magnus that I've learnt is he follows every chess game out there. He will be playing through these games, whether it's live, whether it's afterwards. He'll be checking the results. He'll be looking at the ratings, and maybe that will inspire him in the next event in Miami to really push on and try to reassert his dominance. But fair play to Duda. He's really showing in Magnus's absence that he's the top dog right now, yeah.
Fantastic. Jan-Krzysztof Duda, playing, I think, from his hometown in Poland. Is that correct? Yes. It's going to be 6 o'clock for Jan-Krzysztof when he starts the day. We do have those 2 Chinese players sitting late at night, midnight, for Ju Wenju and Weiyi, and a total of 6 Americans playing in the tournament. But after today, 16 players will become 8 players going through to the knockout stage. And we're going to start out with a game between Levon Aronian and Weiyi. And by the way the tournament has been going, Jovanka, who do you hold as a favorite in the game?
Oh, that is a tough one. I mean, Levon Aronian, he's shown a lot of powerful chess, but his play has been a little bit erratic. At times, he's overpressed. But I still hold him as a favorite over Weiyi, who last tournament, he did actually fantastically well. This one, he seems to be struggling. I mean, perhaps it's the time zone, I don't know, but things just aren't working as well.
Absolutely. And Levon Aronian, he is obviously getting ready for the Olympiad. Simon, do you think opening prep, he's sort of hiding stuff? What can it be about for Levon that we're not seeing his best chess so far, at least?
I think he's so experienced and he's played so many different openings that he doesn't really have to hide too much. I mean, he can play anything at all. So I don't think that would be a main factor. But he does have the white pieces, and that in my eyes, gives him a bit of an advantage. And I still love the way that Rajabov's just looks like, it's just like FBI's most wanted, isn't it? There, we've got one, cross him off. So,
and I did like to see that actually Sam Shanklin was sitting there. He doesn't have to play the first round today, Sam. He's going to get those 3 points walkover win against Rajabov, but he was sitting there. So 15 players getting ready for the final day of preliminaries. 7 of them will join Rajabov in leaving the tournament, and 8 will get ready for the quarterfinals. Levon Aronian is currently in the danger zone together with Weiyi. So do you fully expect, David, both players to go for a win in this game?
I would think so, although it depends how much of an eye Levon Aronian has on the standings. He could just look at this game and think, okay, Weiyi is chasing me. Let's just play it safe. Let's make sure he doesn't win. He doesn't leapfrog me. And then the last 2 games, his fate is still in his own hands. But yeah, it's a really tricky strategy. Levon is not the type of player to play for a draw in general. And he has not gone for a drawish variation. He's gone to something he's played a few times already in this tournament, a type of anti-Sicilian where he's just closing the position, not allowing any early pawn breaks, not really allowing any early exchanges. And what do you guys think of this opening choice? He's played it a few times with mixed success, Levon Aronian. He lost to Erigaisi with this opening.
Yeah, I mean, when you play this type of opening with the white pieces, you're not really saying to your opponent, I'm going to try to get a big advantage, win quickly. What you are saying is, OK, I just want to take the game into my kind of battlefield. I know the position might be equal. I know the computer probably doesn't even agree with the way I'm playing, but I don't care. I want to get a position that I like, a structure I like, and the structure is basically your pawns, the skeleton of your position, and he can decide where they go. But it must be OK for black as well. I mean, black is totally fine. There's no danger at this moment in time.
Yeah, I've noticed when studying these types of opening positions myself, computers often even slightly prefer black. That's what kind of drives white players away from choosing openings like this. Nowadays, you turn on the computers, you see, oh, it might say plus 0.5 for black, and it's only move 8. Let's not even investigate further. But of course, Levon, as you said, he understands the skeleton of the position. He understands the plans, where the pieces will go. He understands what he wants to do quite deep into the middle game. And Weiyi could have predicted this opening because Levon has been playing it several times already this tournament, but he is the first one to think. Weiyi may be surprised, maybe just he analysed with the computer up to this point. He saw, black's doing well. He didn't look any further, but black does need a plan. Which side of the board is black going to play on? Maybe in the centre, maybe on the queen side. He needs to start pushing some pawns black at some point. But how to do that?
Yeah.
Jovanka, has this position been played before?
It has been played before many times, actually. I say many, but that's probably about 30 times, which isn't that much. I'm a big fan of this particular system that Levon is playing, primarily because it fits in with the type of chess that I was playing when I was younger. It was always, just develop the pieces, threaten to set up a big pawn centre in the middle of the board, and then sit on the space and enjoy the freedom that your pieces give you. And I like this type of chess. Yes, as Simon and David have mentioned, that the computer's not a big fan, but in reality, they're humans playing, and there's always the opportunity to go wrong.
Yeah, it's what we call a system, right? It's not necessarily an opening where you have to memorise lots of forcing variations. It's a system where you know where you'll put your pawns, you know where you'll put your pieces, you know what your plan is next. We talk about the London system. It's quite generic. There's an outline. You know in advance what you're going to do. And that's what he's going for here. The knight manoeuvre is quite typical.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the best ways to learn, David, for a lot of players. I mean, even if you're much low rated, doing systems, I think, is such a better way to learn about chess. I mean, a lot of people, memorising lines using chessable, the great chessable, to do that is a good thing to do. But you've got to know the ideas behind the moves you're memorising. It's like a parrot. A parrot, memorises words, but it probably doesn't know the meaning of the words. So you've got to know the meaning of the moves you're playing. And with these kind of positions, I mean, this is exactly what Aronian's doing. You saw that knight move. He knows that knight's going to the king side. He's going to move his pawns forwards. And this, I think, gets you to understand chess a bit better, right, when you're playing systems. So highly recommended way to play. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why the London system is so popular, because you just have to work out your plans.
Yeah. as Simon says, the knight is coming forward at some point, and then the pawn stepping forward, and he's done this at least 3 times, I think, already this tournament.
Do we know where the name comes from? London system? Obviously, it must be from London.
Yeah, this is not the London system here. The London system is a very popular system, probably the most popular, and that came about from the 1922 tournament in London, and I hope I'm not making this up. I know no one believes me now. You know, you don't believe me, and it was in that book, London Chess and Fishing, which everyone knows. I think it was actually a famous chess tournament in London in 1922, but I could be making it up.
100 years ago.
100 years ago, yeah.
So Simon, explain, if we just go back temporarily, the London system would start with this pawn pushing forward, white's knight coming out, and no matter what black does, the white bishop coming out, and maybe we can explain why this is a system.
Yeah, it's a system because I guess you can just break it down into mini plans. So all your pieces as white, if you just look at it from a white point of view, you know where every single piece is going to go, and you know why they're going there, and you know where your king's going to go, you know why. You have to adapt a little bit to what your opponent plays, but you don't really need to memorize individual moves. You just know, I put my piece here because it's doing this job, and then you get into the middle game in a nice sort of easy way. I guess that's why it's so popular, right? I mean, for players don't have time to memorize, beginners, lots of different moves. So
exactly, and he's basically doing the same as the London system, but just on the opposite flank. So if you look at white's setup here, he's just in a mirror image. So here he's brought his knight out and also brought his bishop out. So it's very similar. He knows that on the next few moves his bishop's going to drop back. He knows he's going to push his pawns to these 2 squares, no matter what black does. He knows he's going to, for example, later on white castled, and he knows he's going to bring his knight back to this square and reroute it as he's just done in the game. And as we see, black has kicked back white's bishop, but white's bishop wanted to go here anyway. That's part of the system, part of the plan. The bishop on this square actually supports your central pawn for later. It also, indirectly later, potentially will attack along this diagonal towards the black king. First as well, you push this pawn forward, and this opening looks identical now to actually a Spanish opening, which we get from a completely different first move for black. But using the pattern recognition there, using the information he has about where to put his pieces, bringing his bishop out now, at some point pushing a pawn forward in the centre, it's just automatic, and that's why Aronian still has nearly 16 minutes on his clock.
So he moved that bishop 3 times, but that was just because he wanted it to go to that exact square.
Yeah, it's partly necessity because the bishop always gets kicked around, but he developed it, and it's actually on a good diagonal. The 2 bishops, often bishops together like this, they have potential, and look at this, the position's about to open up, and if it does open up, then this bishop will be well placed. If the centre disappears, it will be on a great diagonal. Yeah. So again, it's just all about the systems, memorising 2 or 3 different patterns, and then choosing the order with which you play them. And as Simon says, great for when you're starting out chess because it cuts out all the nonsense of kind of knuckling down and memorising sharp, long variations, which actually doesn't improve the understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was also going to assure you, Simon, that you can breathe a sigh of relief. I did quickly check up how the London system got its name, and it was from a tournament in 1922.
Nice memory.
So, wow. Good call there.
Haven't ruined my brain quite yet.
I genuinely thought you were trolling us with that information.
I wasn't sure either. I was kind of like, 1922, London. Yeah, so, no.
Yeah.
Pick a random year. Something ending in 22. Yeah. That's impressive knowledge.
Certainly is impressive. And meanwhile, a set of pawns have left the board. And,
did you say balls?
Yeah, no, boards. I said boards. I got it.
That'd be an interesting game. They get some balls out.
That would be quite interesting.
Yeah, bowling chess.
Okay. So the pawns have left the board, and now there's a new added element to the position. I mean, who is going to utilise that now opened line on the C file, and is white threatening to step the pawn forward, the D pawn 1 square forward, grab some space, and all sorts of questions that Weiyi now has to contemplate.
Also, white has actually sacrificed a pawn, we should mention. For example, if black captures in the centre right now with a knight or with his pawn, then white will temporarily at least be a pawn down. You cannot... OK, he has captured with a pawn, but you cannot go and grab this pawn back yet, because then the black queen would swoop down and win the white bishop. White's bishop needs to be protected by its queen. For example, queen takes pawn, queen takes bishop would immediately lose for white. And just like in the game, it's very similar. After pawn takes pawn, white cannot now go and capture it with his knight. Same problem after a trade. The black queen comes and wins a bishop. So how do we think Levon Aronian is going to win back the pawn he sacrificed? The pawn is very weak. It shouldn't last for too long. It's also doubled right now, so it's not a massive concern. But is there something immediate? The computer really likes white's position suddenly.
I was going to suggest forget about the pawn for the time being and just develop the pieces.
Yep.
And dark squish bishop has come out.
This looks good, lining up against the queen.
Maybe threatening to explode the position even more. I mean, another move that I was also thinking, you know, those rhymes just keep coming to mind, and I'm just thinking a knight on f5 will thrive. Maybe put a piece there.
Later, a knight might land here. Maybe if the black bishop goes away, if black loses control over that square, a knight would love to jump in. Also, the black queen has put herself willingly where he put his queen on this square to line up that trick against the white bishop, but the queen might regret sitting on the square now because the white rook is just going to swing across and all the pawns have disappeared on this open file. The black queen will need to move again very shortly. So yeah, it looks pretty nice for white. The black bishop, meanwhile, coming out. And is it time to bring the rook across? Is it time, as Jovanka mentions, to maybe jump in with one of the two white knights? They could both jump towards the black king right now. You could maybe push this pawn forward in the centre to open up the diagonal. We mentioned this bishop has got potential. So much choice for Levon Aronian.
Yeah, I mean, I guess black's, you know, quite comfortable as well, though. I mean...
pretty solid for now.
I think this last move was maybe important the way he played because white was getting ready for ideal sort of situation with the white rook, which you can play now, but I don't know if it works. OK, the knight's jumped in, and this is trying to get the bishop pair. But, yeah, I don't like that knight being there. I really want to take that, but then you open up the other rook. So looking a little bit more comfortable for white, I guess, at the moment.
Trade here, as you mentioned, opens up this rook. I'm not a huge fan, I must say, of that knight jump at all for white. I've seen it go wrong too many times where this pawn actually just gets in the way of your attack. You want this pawn gone in order to free up your bishop, but Levon knows his stuff. I'm going to trust him now, and yeah, this knight jump at least is going to yield white the bishop pair. A lot of pressure now on black's position with this knight.
Levon playing very fast, though. He's been doing that the whole tournament, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit too fast.
It was a recipe for success last season on the tour quite often. Levon had some good results playing fast, especially when he was playing Magnus Carlsen. He managed to win a really important match, and that was because he was faster than Magnus. He was more confident than Magnus, but yeah, this tournament, it hasn't served him too well. I guess if you're playing fast, relying on instinct, it depends on form. If your instincts are sharp, if you're super fresh, then playing fast makes a lot of sense. But if you're not calculating as quickly as normal, if you're slightly out of form, then playing fast, yeah, you might make an odd blunder here or there. And we've seen that from Levon Aronian this tournament.
Yeah.
This thing about instinct, Magnus has talked a lot about it, like, my instinct is not working, or my instinct is very sharp. Can you train your instinct? Can you make sure that this is, you know, for a world championship match or a big tournament, I need my instinct to be on point? Can you sort of time it? Like, you know, an athlete in the Olympics will, you know, time their top form for the Olympics. Yeah, is it possible as a chess player?
Tough question.
That is an interesting question, because somehow I'm just going to have to answer the question personally. I mean, I've always treated this kind of issue of form and instinct as being something almost of a divine nature, you know, somehow it's part of luck or something. The way that I train, I mean, especially now that I'm playing in the Olympiad, is I will be training on calculation and solving as many positions and problems as I can in order to develop that instinct. So if I see a similar pattern, there is some part of my mind working on a subconscious level, operating and just making sure that my hand is ready to play the correct move.
Yeah. What do you think, David?
Yeah.
Can you time it?
I think you can, in a way. For example, if I know that the big goal, if, for example, you mentioned those athletes timing it for the Olympics, if the big goal is a certain time format or a certain race or a certain game, if, for example, I'm aiming for this tournament where it's 15 minutes, it's online, I would just be playing as much as I can. Maybe some of my practice would be over the board chess, but the big target, the kind of the bulk of my work would be practicing this time limit against similar strength opponents. And usually that tends to help. I mean, Levon Aronian, for example, he's been playing quite a lot recently, but very little online and very little rapid chess. He's playing different time formats, and I think it's just taking him time to get back in the zone where his instincts are on point for the 15-minute time control.
Yeah.
Maybe his instincts would be great in blitz time controls or longer time controls, but at the moment his instincts are just maybe slightly rustier at this time format. And it's the same for athletes. They might be running loads, they might be just to practice, but then for the 800 meters they haven't done that exact amount for a while. So there are ways, like Jovanka says, doing puzzles, playing blitz chess, making sure the speed is there, the sharpness is there, but it's different for everyone. And I think Levon maybe hasn't been prioritizing the online format so much lately. Now he's back in the zone, and maybe by day 5 of this tournament, if he's qualified for the knockouts, maybe he'll be fully fresh again, his instincts firing on all cylinders.
Very interesting. Now, we do have a few moves. How are these instincts working in this game?
Yeah, interesting developments in the game. We did see that white knight on f5. It was just too strong. The knight on f5 should not be allowed to survive, and it was exchanged off. And now, after this kind of funny pawn move by Weiyi on the left side of the board, white now has these doubled pawns, but white has some holes in the position, and Levon Aronian, the move I'm really surprised by is this last one, offering up the bishop pair. He's allowing an exchange now. I thought the bishop pair was maybe white's kind of pride and joy in this position. What do you guys think?
It's a bit of an odd move, but when I was looking at the position, I couldn't find a great home for the dark square bishop. And perhaps Levon just also couldn't see a solution there and decides to trade it off. But I mean, the first move you've got to calculate what happens if black simply chops off those bishops.
Yep.
And knight takes the bishop. And I'm assuming that a kickback will happen because you can't let the white knight sit there on g5 square, menacing some of your squares around the black king. That is a dangerous idea, and that David's highlighting. But OK, so if the knight is kicked back, is Levon's idea just to go all in?
Yeah, the question is how.
I was thinking...
The black knight at least is ready to drop back if it needs to protect its king. Black's king, it's hard to kind of loosen it up. It's hard to open up any lines towards it. Maybe the white knight will just step back. I mean, it looks a bit sad, but maybe it will step back, trying to conquer this pawn at some point. Maybe the idea is just to use this bishop at some point and line it up against the black knights, or maybe on this diagonal later. It doesn't look too convincing at all to me. I don't see any tricks here for white.
Yeah. It's kind of a complicated position as well, because you see it's pretty open and you kind of have to take it on a move-by-move basis. But at the final position you've got, it seems like black is doing OK.
Yeah, black can take this pawn, maybe even go back up, pawn up. Black's knight has this great square, potentially an outpost it can start annoying the white pieces from. I mean, I'm not saying white's worse, but it's a bit strange what's been happening. And if I were Weiyi, I would just love to trade this bishop off immediately, just release any pressure. OK, he ignores that tension and he takes this pawn first of all, but this feels a bit loose. I don't see any immediate tactics, but this rook is undefended.
Ooh, bar reacts.
Just feels loose. This rook is undefended. This knight is a bit loose. This knight is undefended. What can white try now?
Yeah, maybe something like just bishop b3 is pretty sensible to tie that rook off, and black's knight in the centre is very strong. We mentioned white's bishop is not doing a great job, so possibly moving there is getting a better option.
I mean, this looks very good. The computer, however, says that white has 3 good moves. One gives quite a significant advantage, and that is just the simple bishop takes bishop. OK, that's slightly surprising.
Yeah, but the second move is really surprising, right? I mean,
wow.
That's the kind of move that he won't play that move. Let's have a bet.
Simon,
we haven't had a bet today.
We haven't had a bet. Rook takes bishop. Would that be on your radar?
No, and I bet he doesn't play it. Anyone want to take me on?
Why is it a strange move? I can obviously see the queen is on that line.
Giving up a rook for a bishop, either of the knights can take you now, so you actually lose material. And he doesn't play it, he plays your move, Simon. This, I mean, maybe there's a follow-up, maybe you can push your pawn forward and go on an attack against the black king, but I think that was just too difficult for any human. It's a big material investment, a rook for a bishop as well. So we can't blame Levon Aronian for missing that one and not sacrificing. Instead, he plays a more human type of move. And Maybe keeping this one in his pocket for later. The third move that the computer suggested here, actually, I thought maybe you would have liked Simon just pushing Harry the H-pawn up one square to support this bishop. But no, the white bishop attacked the knight, and now we finally do see this exchange of dark squared bishops. And some pressure now against the black position. This knight was undefended, it's hit, it has to retreat, and even more pressure being added. The momentum is picking up in white's favour, actually, threat after threat. This is a pin.
Yeah.
How does he break the pin? He has to move the black queen, surely.
And Weiyi under 5 minutes on the clock.
But there's some uncomfortable pressure on the f7 pawn as well.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of the time when I was playing a game and it was almost very similar to this. I had the bishop and the knight lined up on the f7 pawn when a grandmaster walks past me and says to me, "You got a lot of pressure on that pawn," and I was like, "Thank you."
During a game.
Yeah, during a game, I was so annoyed because if someone had heard this, I mean, it was the most obvious thing in the world.
Yeah.
If someone had heard this, they would have they could have said you cheated.
Yeah, definitely.
But
yeah.
I mean,
I'm just thinking the weirdest thing that someone, let's say a grandmaster, has done during a game. I think I can probably beat it, and you could probably try to guess the grandmaster if you want to. But this is actually a bit weird. A grandmaster licked my ear once.
What?
During a game. Yeah, I'm not joking. In the 4NCL. So
why?
Because he's really weird. And, I mean, nowadays he could get arrested for that, right? I mean, for licking. Yeah, and it was like, what are you doing? Yeah, literally, it was weird.
So he just walked around like the board?
He walked around and it's like, what? And it's just like, yeah. And he's sort of, it's very strange, yeah.
Inspired by Mike Tyson, maybe? It didn't bite, luckily.
Yeah, I think maybe I preferred it if he bit in my ear. I don't know. Licking the ear was weird, but I don't know.
I think I can guess who that might be.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'll ask you later, Simon.
You'll ask later, OK. Yeah. Can you beat that, David?
I can't beat that, so nobody's ever licked.
No one's,
no.
Very strange.
Yeah, OK.
How did you react?
I was just very weird, right? I mean, I was just like, well, literally, what are you doing? And it was like,
It wasn't even your opponent, right? It was just...
No, I mean, that would be... that would be even weirder, maybe.
What did your opponent do then?
I think he was just thinking. I mean, like, this guy was just walking around and he was like, he just sort of, you get this, like, weird feeling, and it's like, and it's literally in the middle of a tournament. There's like 200 people in the hall, and it's like, what do you do? What would you do when that happens? Do you punch him, or do you shout at him, or do you just get on with the game? It's very confusing.
Were you able to concentrate again afterwards? Or?
I mean, yeah, it took me a while, right, to get back into it, because you're like just confused, yeah, more than anything. So yeah, that was weird.
I hope that never happens to any viewers at home.
No.
Ever throughout their chess careers.
Would you wouldn't like that, would you, Jan-Krzysztof?
No, I think I would go for your... Yeah,
I think
it would be terrible.
I think nowadays you probably should just call the arbiter, right, and just say, this guy... I mean, it's quite a weird thing to say, excuse me, arbiter, that guy's just licked my ear. It's like...
I think I would call the police.
Yeah. Could it be a new form of chess, though? Everything is allowed to put your opponent off.
No.
That could be fun.
That's a bad idea. It's like a bad idea. And OK, well, Weiyi was feeling that the pressure was a little bit uncomfortable on the f7 pawn, and he pushes his d pawn forward. And whilst Levon Aronian is thinking, well, it's the final day of preliminaries, half the field are going to leave the competition, so it's going to be a dramatic day. And as always, we love it when you at home are part of the fun, sending us your selfies, sending us your comments, and of course, showing us where you're watching from, how you're watching with. And you can do that by tweeting us using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And to kick us all off, I'd like to share with you a little chess-themed photo from Abhishek, who's asking us, how do we like his chest tattoo of the mighty king? That's so cool.
We love it.
We were talking about tattoos the other day. We were talking about what kind of chest tattoos one should get.
Yeah. Well, David?
I'm on the lookout for good designs, so if any viewers do have any ideas, maybe this one from Abhishek. But I'm looking out for some ink ideas, let's say.
It's very cool, David. A chest? Does it have to be a chest tattoo, or are you open to anything?
I'm open-minded, but chest would be a bonus. Chest would be a
agree.
bonus.
Yeah.
You get a grandmaster looking there. Tattoo.
Definitely won't get an image of that
No.
on my arm. So.
No.
Maybe it could be like your score sheet from the game when you officially became Grandmaster.
Oh, yeah, that game was rather boring then.
Oh,
And it's probably really long. It's probably like all the way down his leg, around the back.
It was only 200 moves long.
Yeah, it's just sort of.
You know, I was listening to a podcast this morning about Proust. Apparently, you probably know him, philosopher. You know, he wrote these really long books, and the whole podcast was saying that you should read Proust because it slows you down. I was thinking suddenly that we should all play through David's games because it would slow us down.
Yeah.
You know, we're now in the business of everything being fast. 5 minutes, ba-boom, on to the next, and instead.
Maybe it will just make you want to be faster because it's like, oh, do we have to keep going?
One of the things
Why
I
would
get
we want to slow down?
with my YouTube channel quite a lot, people say I watch it to go to sleep. Not really sure how to take that. So, do I have that soothing voice? No, I don't think so. But yeah, maybe, you know, to sort of, you know, just to get in the right zone. You could sort of.
It was ASMR, right?
That would be really good,
Yeah.
I have sent several arbiters to sleep during my games.
really?
Several. And I've sent a couple of opponents to sleep during games.
That would be a great idea of a podcast. David's long grinds. It started with E4.
Move 136, G3.
There you go. This is great. I'm not even signed up to this. You know, you'll have a fan of people listening to your voice just before they go to bed. Yeah, does that
Maybe
excite
that's
you?
the way to popularise chess. Yeah.
And this is what's the name? SM.
ASMR, I think.
It's
Yeah,
very
that's right.
popular,
Yeah,
right?
it is,
It's huge on YouTube and podcasts and stuff
I've
like
seen
that.
lots of chess videos kind of been saying accidentally ASMR.
Yeah.
There's a channel, isn't there? ASMR chess. There's a chess one, which is very popular.
Really?
I know the guy who runs it, but he's secret.
Oh.
Secret guy, so he's not supposed to mention his name. So yeah, popular
Going to
channel.
be Googling that one later.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, after a pretty long think, for Aronian standards at least, he dropped back the white knight, putting some pressure on black's pawns in the centre, and the black queen moved. So let's just recap. White is actually temporarily a pawn down right now. We haven't been talking about that too much because the two centre pawns for black, those double D pawns, they're both going to be very weak. One of them might drop off, and meanwhile, Aronian's going for it. He's pushed his pawn forward. He's trying to launch a pawn storm towards the black king, but weakening the white king as well in the process, and the computer really hates that last move, maybe because the white king is actually the weaker of the two right now. And black's knight jumps in. Oof, it looks like it's turning in black's favour suddenly.
Totally does. I have to say, I visibly recoiled when I saw that pawn move come on the board. It was so surprising. I did not expect it at all. And, you know, take a look at Levon Aronian's pieces. They are not primed for a kingside attack. They are primed for action in the middle. That's where he should be focusing his efforts on. And White's king looking rather shaky at the minute. I don't like what's happened.
Yeah, it looks really inconsistent what he's just done, his last two moves. Maybe if we go to recap, because we were discussing, OK, these two doubled pawns, they're targets. Maybe there's some way to slowly build up some pressure against them. Maybe move the white queen, coordinate the white rooks. But throwing this pawn forward, I understand the idea. He wants to kick away this knight, and it looks like this knight is defending this central pawn. But after the black knight wanted to jump into the centre anyway, maybe Aronian just underestimated the fact that bishop takes pawn is not possible. It looks like white's regained the pawn, forking the two knights, a double attack there. But this knight jump is just terminal. This knight jump hits the queen and hits the bishop and wins material. So Levon Aronian instead had to retreat his knight. But this is where the inconsistency is, pushing a pawn, opening up your king, and then retreating instead of going on the attack. Going forward, stepping back. And now also, once the knight disappears, maybe black has better. Maybe black's knight should actually jump into this square. That looks very tempting. But even if the knights disappear, for example, the white king is always going to be open later in the game. So, yeah, it just feels like a step in the wrong direction. That being said, what is Weiyi going to play? He does keep the knights on the board. He plays this knight in, and white's queen moves. I would love to somehow improve this black knight now. You can't quite jump into the centre yet. The square is covered by the white rook, but if you could somehow jump into this square, This is kind of the dream square for the black knight. Maybe you can go the other way. Maybe you can jump this way, putting some pressure on the white bishop, and then jumping into this square, which is nicely supported by these two pawns. It just all looks wrong for white somehow.
Yeah, it does. And does black have to worry about the pawn that's up for grabs in the middle of the board?
Yeah, maybe this bishop can take a pawn. There's some pressure here on the third rank, but maybe no way for black to capitalize on that at the moment. So instead of that knight jump, if we go back, the bishop attacking this pawn, Weiyi decides to jump into this square. Also quite convincing. Attacking this lone ranger right now, the white A pawn, but also defending black's pawn in the center. Those two black knights, they're starting to take over. They're starting to really control everything right now. This white rook is not such a happy piece.
No, and I really like this knight move as well because it clears the third row for the queen. So look at the queen, you know, she's on that Goldilocks line. You know, she can switch to the left, switch to the right. And, yeah, doing great defensive and offensive work.
Yeah, if Weiyi beats Levon Aronian now, Aronian's chances, they're going to take a massive hit.
Yeah.
It's his direct rival. He's going to be overtaken. Weiyi's guaranteed another 3 points from that Rajabov clash.
That's true.
I mean,
It's a very tricky position to play as well, isn't it? I mean, for white, because
you can't play it safe anymore, right?
you can't, and you know, black can just take pawns, capture pawns. I mean, I was trying to create some counterplay. I think in situations like this where things are going pretty wrong, you've got to. Okay, a couple of moves have been played, but you've got to try to create some counterplay. So I really wanted to open up black's king, but as you say, black's queen doing a great job of defending all that.
And I just want to mention a massive result. Ju Wen-jun has already, after 30 minutes, won her game against Hans Niemann. The tilt continues for Niemann, but 3 points for Ju Wen-jun. That takes her back in contention for qualification. She could be the first female player to make it to the knockout stage in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. That would be amazing. I think everyone can agree on that. 3 points for her takes her to 15 points, currently in 9th place, and she will face off against Anish Giri in the next round. Exciting stuff.
That's very exciting because yesterday everything went wrong for her. And I have to say, I played through her games and a lot of it wasn't her fault. She lost on time in a completely drawn position, level position, I should say, against Duda.
Yeah.
Maybe that could have been internet troubles because sometimes you have lag.
Yeah, she was disconnected.
Yeah. And then she disconnected later on as well. And so she lost 2 games, right?
Against Mamajarov, yeah.
Against Mamajarov, it was totally level. And, one of those days, you really feel frustrated. You're just like, come on. This is, this has been her tournament. She's been shining throughout. And now this happens on a critical day. So it's fantastic to see her do well against Niemann. And when it comes to Niemann, sorry, Simon, I was reminded of, I was watching Doctor Strange for all of 10 minutes after the show. And there's a scene, right, where he tries to do some magic or whatever he does. And the lady goes to him, drop the ego and the power will rise or something. And I was like, oh, maybe this is the thing with chess players need to do, just drop the ego. When you lose, drop the ego, drop those negative stories you tell yourself and just let it all flow.
Yeah.
There you go. Me taking inspiration from Marvel.
And I know it's a little bit sadistic, I may be a little bit cruel, but if Hans does lose all his 3 games, Kaja, can you interview him, please? Straight away. The crowd wants it.
I can imagine he will be a little bit angry. He said yesterday, I don't understand why you want to interview me now. But of course we did. It's important to talk to the ones who are struggling as well. And in this one, is Levon still struggling?
It's unclear. Suddenly, he's actually 2 pawns down, Levon Aronian. Black has 3 pawns now on the left half of the board. Those D pawns as well, still surviving, but a bit weak. It's just about whether Levon can, firstly, trap that black knight. That black knight has no retreat squares anymore. It got greedy, grabbed a pawn, but it has nowhere safe to run. But also, can Levon, while that black knight tries to extricate itself, tries to find an escape route, can Levon just pick up all of black's pawns? The pawns on the D file, that black B pawn maybe as well. Lots of questions suddenly for Weiyi to answer, and only 1 minute on the clock to find those solutions. It's not easy anymore. I do feel Weiyi complicated the matter a bit too much. He could have done something very similar, but in a more risk-free way. Suddenly, Levon's found this tricky queen retreat, which I don't think was on Weiyi's radar. And
his knight's really out of the
how's
game
he
as
even
well, isn't
saving
it?
it, I'm thinking.
I mean, it's a good question.
You have to use the black queen, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, knight's on the rim, just typical problem here that Black's got. And it was actually what Ju Wenjun did wrong as well. I think in the game we covered yesterday, Ju Wenjun moved the knight out of the, to the side of the board, and that made her lose the game against Dominguez.
It's the knight stable, Simon. The knight is completely trapped by the queen. Look at the queen. It controls this kind of portion of the board, and that's all of the squares that the black knight wants to use. So, OK, the black queen has had to try and challenge its rival over here. A queen trade, I think, would get Levon out of any danger. He could trade off the queens, then trade off the knight, and then start grabbing some pawns back. He could start grabbing this pawn, and this should fizzle out towards a draw. All the pawns are disappearing. It's just rooks on the board. Ooh, I was going to say maybe if he was feeling more ambitious, he could keep the queens on, but he has taken them off. And after trading the queens, instead of taking the knight, actually, he's just created this pin. So he is still playing ambitiously, Levon Aronian, trying to pin the knight to the rook behind it. And the problem for black is you can't currently defend your knight with your other rook, because after a couple of trades here, after everything disappears from the board, there is a nasty checkmate. And black's king has no breathing space. But I think the trick is, after he's defended his knight, if everything does disappear, then at the very end, he does have this pawn push to at least keep this white rook honest for now. White's rook now cannot kind of maintain this checkmating idea, so when it moves, then black will capture the white bishop. And black still has a lot of pawns. Black still has these three. And yeah, maybe Levon Aronian had missed this last move, missed this pawn push. It's a very important pawn push.
Yeah, it's important to have a keen tactical, well, it's a keen sense of tactics, because I had missed that as well. I thought it wasn't possible to play that move.
Maybe in the current position, I was going to say it's the same idea. Bishop takes pawn, looks like it's a double attack hitting this rook, still with an eye on the knight, but the black pawn again pushes forward. As you mentioned, Jovanka, just keenly spotting Weiyi that he can use tactics to survive here.
Is it going to get simplified now after the rook just slides one square to the left? You have to keep an eye on the pawn, I think, and luckily white's always got the option of swapping the knight, swapping some things off.
Yeah.
So is this
it's going to happen.
Getting liquidated now, maybe?
I guess the black rook will move, maybe, from the attack, or this move.
Yeah, this move is possible.
I was reluctant to do any calculation here, but the calculation is actually quite simple. After a rook trade, white takes this pawn. Now, this game is heading towards a draw. Most likely, both sides have 4 pawns. White's 4 pawns are not actually so impressive because these are doubled. So white's 4 is basically the same as black's 3. Black does have this one kind of trump card, the B pawn, but it's not too impressive after a check. And yeah, you can trade off this bishop, you can leave it on. Either way, it should be a draw. Personally, I would just take it off and avoid any risk. But okay, he trades the rooks. That's actually very clever. And a rook endgame, white has to start racing the king over to stop this pawn before it's too late. But I think white should be in time. It should still be a draw.
Even with the clock situation, could Levon look at Weiyi's time and see that he only has about a minute to go? Is there anything he can sort of impose some problems?
I don't think so. There have just been too many exchanges, too many pieces have left the board. And especially the way Weiyi calculates, I keep saying the way, but yeah, the Chinese school of chess as well, they're so good at calculating 2 or 3 move tricks, 2 or 3 move sequences. They can calculate it in milliseconds. So in this type of position, there will never be long tactics. It's because there's so few pieces on the board. It's just about confirming this 2-3 move sequence is fine for me, I can play it. And with 1 minute on the clock, that should be enough now.
Now, flagging has been a theme lately in chess. Is it Kramnik who's been very critical of players who flag, which basically means you're not winning on the board, but you win on the clock?
Play for the clock.
Yeah. We don't see that maybe in rapid chess as much.
No.
But in tie breaks, we could see it, maybe.
In tie breaks, potentially.
Yeah, especially in Armageddon, I guess that is the nature of the game. I mean, he had a great choice of words. He called flagging moral degradation, especially because, you know, he was being flagged in like lost position. Well, he was winning and his opponent was losing, or in completely drawn positions, and you know, it all happened at once. And it was his first time playing a tournament like this, and he's like, never ever again.
Yeah, but
it sounds like a bad loser, really. I mean, you're playing chess. You know, the clock is part of the game, right? I have to admit, I do moan a lot whenever I get flags. I'm the same. I'm like, how dare you do that? But, you know, it is just like, it's part of the game, right? If you move too slow, you lose. You know, you've got to move quicker. So, I mean, and it's an exciting part of the game. I'm actually quite against increment in general. I wish there was no increment. I think it would be much more exciting because you'd see many more games ending on time. Yeah. You see many more shootouts, as you can say. So I would love to bring that back. I don't know if David would maybe. I don't know. David
would retire from chess immediately.
David lives on the increment. I mean, often, but
there would be no more 200-move games.
That's true, actually.
But you could have the increment kick in. I mean, I kind of like this idea that up to a certain amount of moves, there's no increment. But once you pass, say, like move 45 or 40 or something, then like a very slight increment kicks in of like 1 second or so. And
I know a lot of the top players in the world, at least, they have your opinion there, Simon. I've spoken to a few of them, and they want to get rid of increment. They just say, why does it still exist?
Yeah,
chess should be an adrenaline sport.
It's quite funny because I posted this on Twitter, and you had all the arbiters started coming in, and they were like, "Oh, we did our surveys, and people prefer it this way because it's a lot harder for the arbiters." I'm going back to the arbiters again, aren't I? It's a lot harder for the arbiters if there is no extra time added on. They've got an extra job to do. But I think in some tournaments it would just be more exciting to have that aspect. Maybe in the chess, I don't know if the standard might go down a bit, but OK, you sacrifice that for excitement.
Well, we always love it in Armageddon, right? Where we don't have increment. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this game, meanwhile, might be heading towards a draw. The players have repeated the position once. Aronian actually gave up a pawn temporarily just to ruin Black's pawn structure. So Black has the doubled F-pawns now. But the problem for Weiyi, despite being a pawn up, is that the knight is actually inferior to the bishop while pawns exist on both sides of the board. The knight is not on a good circuit either, so it doesn't have any kind of great squares to go to. If Weiyi wants to keep this battle alive, the Black Knight is going to have to go to the edge of the board, potentially, but no easy way back from there either. So I think Weiyi will just give a knight check, as he did a couple of moves ago, repeat the position, and this game should be a draw. I said earlier that Levon Aronian, he lost control, but actually he fought back quite well after that, and OK, no draw yet. He keeps the game alive, Weiyi. Brave with only 40 seconds on the clock. And, OK, Black's knight is at least anchored, and White pushes forward.
But I don't think Weiyi is really trying hard to win. I think he's just simply prolonging the game and just seeing whether Levon just makes an error somehow, because there's no way for Black to activate the king, and the knight is just dancing around by itself, doing... I can't see what it's doing. And I think, oh, well, OK. Again, the wait and see, the cat and mouse game continues.
Yeah. The wait and see.
Oh, very good. I have to say, any puns I make are just purely accidental.
I would like to see Weiyi versus So. There could be a lot of puns there. So, Weiyi... No, I can't. Maybe in the future.
That's so the way to go?
Yes, exactly.
Well, we do have some interesting results. So Jeffrey Chong, he has won his game against Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, and that means Shakhriyar is stuck on 18 points. Anish Giri, he played a draw against Arjun Erigaisi. That means he is on 18 points, and with a draw in this game, well, Levon Aronian, he will be on 18 points. So 3 of the big favorites in 6th to 8th place with 18 points, and 3 points behind them will be Ju Wenjun. Weiyi will have 16 points, and he will definitely gain 3 points in the next game. A walkover win for him against Timur Rajabov, taking him to 19. So I think Levon and Anish and Shakhriyar, they must be feeling the pressure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I guess in Levon's favour, there is the tiebreak where we talk about number of decisive games. He's lost a few, but he's also won a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
So if he ends up on the same score, for example, as Weiyi, his games have been more maybe fighting, according to the result at least. So that would be one solace for him. But yeah, I mean, none of these players have their fate in their own hands at the moment. They're just hoping that they can win and hoping that's enough. Meanwhile, Weiyi, he's kind of put his knight not quite in the stable, where it's stuck off the board, because it does have a retreat square, but Black's knight is not on a great circuit at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you swap the white king and bishop around, white might actually be winning.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. If you got to notice these patterns. I mean, you were talking about instinct earlier. I think that's a great way to improve your instinct, is to just, open a random chess magazine. Okay, lots of pawns getting swapped off here, so I'm assuming this is now heading towards more of a draw. But I was just going to say, open a chess magazine, look at a position and try to find the move that the player's played is a good way to try and improve your instinct, I think.
Yeah. And I suspect the game will finish very shortly. The white king is planning to round up the b-pawn, and the bishop will sacrifice itself for the last remaining black pawn, and that's it. There you go. It's coming. There is no way that Weiyi can avoid the draw.
Yeah, and all the pawns are about to disappear, and I think we have a result. There we go. King and bishop versus king is a draw, and Levon Aronian runs off the screen. Decent result for both, but not what they wanted.
No, a draw in this one. 1 point for each of them, both of them fighting to qualify for the knockout stage. One game still going on here in round 13. Arjan Tari, the only Norwegian in the tournament, he's been struggling, and I don't think he actually has a chance to qualify. Jan-Krzysztof Duda, he is already qualified. He's played some great chess. He is fighting to overtake Magnus Carlsen as the #1 rated player in the tour. Could he do it with a win in this game?
He's not going to win this game.
Okay.
Duda, it looks like Arjan Tari is doing his compatriot, doing his mate Magnus Carlsen a favour in this one by ensuring Magnus stays top of the tour ratings, at least for now. But how great are the winning chances? That is the question. White is a pawn up. It's 3 versus 2 in terms of pawns. This black king is in a bit of bother. It's checked right now. How do you guys estimate White's winning chances? It's going to be a long journey to win, though.
Over the board, it's going to be a long journey. But, I mean, taking a look at the time control, I'm just look that Duda only has, less than 10 seconds on the clock. And time is ticking.
Ooh, he went down to 6 seconds with that last move. The black king finding a safe square. Yeah, I'm trying to find ways to maybe swap the rooks off in a convenient moment, but I don't see it right now for Arjan.
Rook c2 doesn't work here. I mean, maybe you could try it. Black's rook is very active, I suppose. That's giving him great drawing chances here.
Yeah, if the rooks come off, I'm not sure whether the black knight can try and eliminate some pawns. If those 2 pawns on the f file both get eliminated, black's pawn and white's pawn, it should just be a draw. So, okay, he does give it. Okay, he keeps the rooks on the board. Jan-Krzysztof Duda, slightly surprised. I would have maybe assumed he'd spend more time at least calculating a rook trade. He gives a knight check now. White's king has 2 safe squares.
Yeah,
go towards the black knight, maybe?
I was thinking towards, and I guess the knight will just move itself and attack the white rook.
Is Duda's idea to take the white pawn?
Ooh.
There we go. He takes the pawn, which is the defender of the white knight. So white's knight under fire from black's rook suddenly. Is this a way for Duda to save the game? Has he found a miraculous defence?
But hang on a second. You can give a check to the black king, and the black king has to place itself on some very awkward squares.
Yeah, white's pawn can attack the black king. I'm not sure how much that gains, though. Okay, meanwhile, the f-pawns have disappeared, so it's just 2 versus 1, but the key is they're just on one side of the board. So any rook exchange now should guarantee a draw. White will not be able to create a passed pawn anytime soon. Still some tricks. Black's rook and knight, not perfectly coordinated.
It's always hard with knights, isn't it? I mean, there's always tricks with knights on the board. I can remember a funny story of Ivan Sokolov. I mean, they're dancing around here. This should be a draw, I'd imagine, but he was losing in round one at the Reykjavik Open to a 2,100 player. Ivan's a strong grandmaster. And he basically lost the exchange, but he ended up winning with the knight versus the rook. And he just came in the commentary room and he just said, yeah, I was never worried. Knights are just, very tricky pieces, very tricky pieces. And you have to watch out for them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a black knight fork here if black can get a move in, which would actually win the game for black. So
White needs to move the rook away to a safe square where you can't get hit, you can't get checked by the black knight. Maybe you could move the white king forward as well.
Yeah.
You have to be a bit careful, though, where you go. Arian down to under 20 seconds now.
15 seconds. I mean, if I were Arian, I would follow one of your rules, which was to keep them far away from each other, the rook and the king, so that there's no danger of any knight forks whatsoever.
What do you guys think? Will we see a knight fork, a devastating knight fork in this game?
Oh, hang on, look at the geometry here.
yeah, that's quite nice.
Everything on the D file.
And
I mean, it seems like White is coming up the board quite quickly here as well. He's making a fair bit of progress, but...
Checkmating ideas against the black king, potentially?
Definitely. If the white king can step forwards one square, then there'd be some devastating checks to the rook. So the black has to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, maybe Duda realising he's not out of trouble yet. If he can consolidate, if black's rook could get back to protect its knight, the black knight sitting on a stable square, then black is just making a draw. White's 2 pawns are not necessarily better than the black 1 right now, but no stability at all for Duda. The white king's so much more active than the black king.
13, 12, 11, 10, and there we see Duda shaking his head. I think he just has to retreat the knight, keep it passive. Okay, he gives
Not
a
to that
check.
square.
And
Now the knight is in the stable. The black knight is completely dominated.
And look at Duda's head as well. I mean, he's really upset, but the position is not that bad at the moment, but he's telling himself it is.
3,
He's convincing
2,
himself.
1, make move.
Okay, made that move with a few seconds left, but already some serious trouble maybe for Duda. White's b-pawn can step forward 1 square, completely dominating the black knight once more. Black's rook's on a loose square as well, so black's king can never, ever step across towards the white rook. There will be some nasty checks there.
Yep.
Both sides really low on the clock. Tarry with 20 seconds, Duda under 10 seconds.
Big threat at king c6, which is stopped just about by that move.
But hang on a second,
hanging by a thread.
he's lost contact with the white knight, which means that the white rook can now move and improve itself big time.
Yeah,
She has done.
And it's done. And
now the black knight gets out maybe.
Big threats of a check here from
Yeah.
white, and that white rook can go up 1 square, then it will be winning for white. So the check is forced.
I really didn't like that move, letting the black knight out. I think you could have kept the domination a bit longer, but okay, the black knight, where's it going?
It's your kind of position as well. You'd have been loving that one, David.
I would have sat there for a bit longer before
Yeah.
changing the nature of the position.
Yeah.
But Duda down to a few seconds again. Ooh, he goes the whole way back.
Wow.
I thought this is where he should have gone originally.
Knight is so bad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad, but at least it's protected now.
Holding at the moment.
Yep.
Okay, Tarry steps forward.
Very interesting idea here. If he takes the pawn, the knight's going to jump back to where that pawn just came from.
Yeah, I think we're going to see this, Simon.
Yeah.
So black has actually won back one of the pawns. It's 1 versus 1 in terms of pawns right now, but where's the win? Where's the knockout? White's knight can give some checks. Maybe there's just no killer blow. Maybe
Yeah.
Duda looks so scared, though. He looks so unhappy with this position.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Why? He looks like he's holding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, he's... just look at the white cluster of pieces. I mean, black just cannot move the knight because otherwise he will be checkmated. And the question is, what can he do? I guess he has to put his rook on the bottom row and then just wait it out.
Yeah, then the white king can come round,
Yeah.
maybe. So Okay, what's this move?
What?
Is that mouse slip? He's mouse
Yeah,
slipped.
he's mouse slip.
He just mouse slipped,
He
right?
just gave away his knight?
Yeah, it was a mouse slip. He
Right.
wanted to give a check.
Really?
But he would have reacted more than that
Yeah.
on the camera if that was a mouse slip. Did he just forget his knight was attacked?
I think he got a call from Magnus before the game. Don't take my rating, whatever you do. But, I mean, you could tell he was really unhappy with his position for the last 10, 15 moves, but he didn't realise a little bit of lack of confidence there, maybe even. I mean, he didn't realise that he was holding.
But he's been shaking his head for the last 15 moves, right?
Yeah,
Even though he
yeah.
actually defended quite well.
Yeah.
And now white is just completely winning. Extra knight, and The key thing is a set of pawns remain on the board. If both of the pawns disappeared right now, it would actually be a draw. Rook and knight against rook is a draw, and quite an easy draw for the defending side, but with pawns on the board, no chance. That black pawn as well is about to drop off. No way to defend it. It's attacked twice. Such a weird mouse slip if it was one. I just don't understand.
A player like Duda, you don't see him fall apart like that, and I think the pressure just got to him, and he just couldn't find a move, that's very strange. Very strange.
I mean, it might not have been a mouse slip, so to speak, but maybe he was just like picking his rook and then thinking about where to put things, and somehow or other you accidentally drop it on some random square. I've done that before.
Yeah, I mean, if he had mouse slipped, I would have expected him to kind of sit back and shake his head or resigned in disgust. But, okay, he's still battling. Duda, how can he keep his pawn alive? How can he somehow trick Arian Tari? How can he get that white pawn? Okay, he gives another check. The white king will step towards the black rook.
And maybe his idea is to... No, I don't see it, to be honest. The pawn will...
The thing is, if you take the pawn, the black king does step. If you remove both of the pawns from the board, then it is, of course, a draw. Rook and knight versus rook is a draw, but okay, this is a good move here. I think just making sure the last white pawn will never be captured as you're guarding it now with the white knight, and you can take your time here winning this one. There's a number of ways you can do it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Taking that black pawn on the last move would have just lost all coordination with white's army. So centralise the knight, reroute the rook if you need to. No rush at all.
I mean, black would just love to go a6 next move, push the black pawn one square and swap it off, but it's not going to work. Just swing it over.
Oh, wait.
Wait, now?
Could you push that pawn?
I don't know. I said it's not going to work, but I just guessed it wouldn't work.
Was that?
a6.
Did he give a check?
Was there a draw on the last move?
Well, I wanted to check if
and then the black rook could block?
Right.
And
a pawn takes pawn.
what was I miss? Ah, that's a check. Yeah. Okay, I was missing something. Yeah, black was not able to draw on the last move. He wants to set up this pawn move, offering a pawn exchange right now. Still not easy for Tari to win. This one looked over. The computer says it's over, but maybe the nerves kicking in on Arian's side now. White can give a couple of checks. White can improve the king.
Just he has to improve the king, I think.
Ooh, that's a weird move. Going away from the centre.
Is he just fighting against black pushing the a pawn one square forward, and Duda shaking his head once more, throws in a check. King steps forward. How is white going to hide the king?
This is, I think, the question we're going to find out the answer to very shortly, because Duda has nothing else. He has to just go for the white king, keep checking it. At some point, the white knight will block a check.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe now if the black rook again checks the white king, the white knight will step back, retreat.
Yeah, and I guess...
Great defender.
I guess Arian is saying, I've improved my king by doing this manoeuvre. And he now would love to check the king away to a bad square. Can he do that now? Force it backwards?
King. Yep.
So I'm not sure the black king, okay, can come forwards.
Yeah.
I would love... I mean, this is the perfect square for white's rook, because now, when the king moves, the black pawn can never, ever step forward and challenge and trade itself off.
And now I think it's all over.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Knight is coming in, and it's just about shielding the king, just giving it a home.
No more checks now, no more safe checking squares. The white knight will jump forward next with a really devastating check meanwhile.
It's a long game, this one. They played for 58 minutes so far, but all games in the next round will start 10 minutes after this one finishes. So a long pause for the other ones to prepare for round 14 in the preliminaries. Only 2 rounds to go.
Come on, guys, show us 100 moves. I want to meet that 100 mark. Yeah, Duda's still defending, though. This is a good lesson. Never resign, because you might get your opponent a bit nervous. You might eventually tire them out. I don't think we'll see the 50 move rule anytime soon. The last pawn push or capture was on move 65. So they have made quite a few moves since the last kind of progress, as we call it, since the last capture or pawn push. So if we get to move 115, that's still a long, long way away there, then it would be declared a draw.
Yeah.
Aronian needs to win the black pawn before that, or swap the rooks off.
Huh.
So those are the two winning techniques for white. Trade off the rooks and make sure the pawns stay on the board. You don't allow a pawn trade, or you have to win black's remaining pawn. And Aronian has 33 moves to do that.
He looks very calm, Ariantari. Duda, he is not looking too comfortable.
And I can reveal that actually Aronian, he's had a tough tournament, of course, but it's just luck has been going against him. Yesterday he pre-moved, and it was the only losing move in the whole position.
No.
It was his pre-move, so he's been having a tough time. Sometimes, yeah, when one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. But maybe that's just playing on his mind right now. He could have won this game a bit quicker, maybe, but he just wants to go slow and steady to avoid any potential pitfalls.
He's under 10 seconds. I mean, I also read somewhere that he won his first game with black, and after that he's lost the remainder of his black games. And sometimes, you know, you just feel a little bit jinxed. And, well, the white king is going to hide itself along the A line if it's checked by the rook. So the question is, what will he do if black... Ooh!
Okay,
Here it comes, critical moment.
Yeah, this is...
But
Inspiration, surely.
Duda is smiling, you know, it looks like he doesn't quite believe it himself.
Another mouse slip.
Pawn takes pawn.
It would be a strange mouse slip. If so, white has this passed pawn now. Okay, black can't even win it back immediately. He just goes behind. And there we go. The evaluation bar reacts quite significantly.
Oh, look at that, yeah.
Yeah, I think simple idea here would be to, okay, pushing the pawn makes sense as well. I was going to say reroute the white knight, give a check to the black king in a couple of turns, but Ariantari goes straight for the kill. This pawn is just going to cost black his rook. No way about it.
And what I like is that Duda is playing on. He is making Aronian work hard for the point and show us all how it's done. And
Doesn't seem like he's enjoying himself so much.
No. I mean, it's exercise and suffering. And here we go. It is curtains.
Yeah, white's pawn will cost black the rook, even if the white knight disappears, and a rook is enough to checkmate the black king. So, yeah, that white pawn is destined to promote on the next go, and Duda therefore resigns. Tari breathes a sigh of relief.
Oh, that is a nice win for Ariantari, who has been struggling, but 3 points here for the young Norwegian. Jan-Krzysztof Duda, he is already ready for the knockout stage, but he's fighting to overtake Magnus Carlsen on the #1 ranking spot in the tour. So a loss here was definitely not what he wanted, but it is a loss for Jan-Krzysztof Duda. Ju Wen-jun is back in contention. She could be the first female player to qualify for a knockout stage in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour, and in the next game, she will play Anish Giri, also fighting to qualify for the quarterfinals, so that should be an intense game. It's going to start in 9 minutes, and before that we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 1972 World Chess Championship match, and we're now going to dig into the final game of that match. After 20 games, Bobby Fischer was leading by 3 points, and the American, he only needed 1 more point to be the new world chess champion. And game 21, it started on August 31st, 1972, but it didn't finish until the day after.
Game 21. This is where it all ended. Fischer took the win, and with it, he won the world title. It was actually a very tense situation. They were fighting for many, many hours, and the game was adjourned. For anyone who has watched the Queen's Gambit, they will know that adjournments are pauses in the game where the players can go away and study and continue the next day. After staying up all night, however, Spassky here with the white pieces, he realized that he had no chance. The position is hopeless for white, and he didn't even bother to continue. He submitted his resignation the next day, and Fischer took the title. The reason Spassky decided that this was a hopeless position is because here, black has a rook against white's inferior bishop. The rook is much more powerful than its counterpart here. It holds up the white pawns, which cannot move, and also black has this important passed pawn. Here, the h-pawn will decide the game. And after studying the position all night, Fischer for sure would have found the winning idea, which starts with moving the black king across one square. Fischer could then simply push his pawn forward, use the rook to destabilize the white king, and black will eventually make a new queen. Due to this continuation, Boris Spassky decided to give up the game and his world championship title. Bobby Fischer was the new world champion.
And as of that day, Bobby Fischer was the world chess champion. And the current world chess champion, Magnus Carlsen, he has often been compared to Bobby Fischer, their approach to the game as a sport, their fight to make chess more professional. And we're now going to hear Magnus Carlsen rate Bobby Fischer.
I don't consider him to be that big a genius, but still there was some Capablanca-like quality in the way that he made chess look very simple, so I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Fischer was certainly, everything about him was entertaining, all that was around. His games in themselves were entertaining because he always played for a win, even though they weren't always most sort of exciting in terms of new ideas and everything. But considering the whole package, I think he gets an 8 here. I would say he scores very highly, both in terms of opening ideas, general ideas about the game, and obviously everything that's around Fischer. He's influenced chess greatly, so I think he's gonna get a 9 here. And then in terms of sanity, I think we are judging Fischer as a world champion, and while he was world champion, I think he was still reasonably well-rounded, so he gets a 4 here, which is not a great score, but certainly later it could have potentially been even worse.
Magnus Carlsen, he especially praises Bobby Fischer's influence on the game of chess. For example, Fischer Random Chess is a big thing today. And, well, Bobby Fischer in 1972 became world chess champion, but he never defended his title. David, what happened after that day when he became the world champion?
That's the thing. He basically stopped playing chess. He barely played another game. I think when it came to the time when he was supposed to defend his title in 1975, when it was supposed to be Karpov, his opponent, by then the whole world knew he was going to step aside and not play. I think that was just the pinnacle for him, becoming world champion. That was the goal he set himself. His whole career, his whole life was driven towards that moment. And when he got the title, he didn't really know what to do next. And whether it was fear of defeat, whether it was just feeling he'd already accomplished everything, whether he felt there were more important things in life, we're not sure. But either way, it's a pity we never got to see him play again, never got to see him shine as a world champion.
And as Magnus said, he always played for the win, entertaining games. I think we also can take a look at the results from the 1972 match. Fischer eventually won game 21 to become the world chess champion. And actually, Simon, did we see Harry the H-pawn become kind of decisive in that game?
Yeah, I don't know if it's game 21, but it was the most famous moment. I can't remember actually, but there was a famous moment when Bobby lost the game when he grabbed Harry the H-pawn. And I think this is one of the first 2 games.
Game one.
Game 1. And that was maybe, and you might have looked at this in the previous one, but the biggest, craziest decision in a World Championships game ever. So that sticks out to me, but as a defining moment. But then Bobby obviously came back, slow starter in that match.
Yeah. He finished with 12.5 points to become the world chess champion, and he died at 64. Suitable. Same as the amount of squares on the chessboard.
Yeah, and it was a sad case, actually, because his medical condition is actually very treatable. I mean, I had the privilege of visiting Svetislav Gligoric. Sorry, I kind of mispronounced his name, Gligoric, in his house. And there we had a conversation about his friend Bobby. And he said, no, Bobby wasn't doing very well. He just was refusing to take medicine. He just didn't want any medical intervention at all. And it was very treatable as well. So it's a very, very sad case. But, you know, by then, I think he had just lost his mind.
Yeah.
And we could kind of see it happening from the beginning, actually. You know, there's so many things happened. But World Championship matches are very stressful.
Absolutely. And Bobby Fischer will always be remembered as one of the greatest chess champions in history. We have to take a look at the results in round 13 in the FTX Road to Miami. Sam Shanklin, of course, a walkover win against Timur Ajabov. Ju Wenjun, such an important win, 3 points for her against Hans Niemann. Jeffrey Zheng won against Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, and Aryan Tari, as we saw, 3 points for him against Jan-Krzysztof Duda. So the standings now, you guys, with only 2 rounds to play in the preliminaries, we still have Samuel Sevian on top of the table. But 3 players currently on 18 points. Mamedyarov, Giri, and Aronian. Aronian currently outside top 8. Anish Giri, he is also fighting to qualify. And his game against Ju Wenjun has started. What are we watching here?
Yeah, it's early days, but it's what we call a fianchetto variation, where both sides have now put their bishops on long diagonals. White's bishop on the g2 square, black's bishop on g7, and it could still transpose, I was going to say, into a Grunfeld, a King's Indian. It's more of a King's Indian type of opening, where black will try and push a pawn in the center, most likely now. There we go from Anish Giri. But White's setup is very solid. White puts up this pawn center, and any exchange of pawns in the center means that White has a bit more space, but black is relatively flexible. Black can play on both sides of the board.
Okay.
I haven't seen Giri play like this too often, though, so I'm pretty sure Ju Wenjun will be happy.
All right. Well, we're also joined by Tai, who's doing all the stats. 2 rounds to play now in the preliminaries. Tai, first of all, Anish Giri coming from a draw. Is he feeling safe to qualify now for the knockouts?
He's in very good shape. He's at 92% to qualify. But it's not quite set in stone yet.
And how about Ju Wenjun coming from that important win against Hans Niemann? Can Ju still become the first female player to qualify?
It is still possible. For those who really want to see chaos, it's worth keeping in mind that any of Aryan Tari, Hans Niemann, Ju Wenjun, or even Sam Shanklin still have a mathematical chance if everything goes perfectly for them in these last 2 rounds.
Okay, exciting. And obviously, Levon Aronian, he is currently in 9th place. What will it take for Levon to make it into top 8?
Well, he's going to probably need to win a game. I'm not confident that 2 draws will do the trick. They might. There's a lot of possibilities. It could take up to 22 or as little as like 19 to qualify, and he's already on 18. But to really be safe, I think he needs to win a game if he wants to get out of that sort of 3-way race for 2 spots that he's in with Weiyi and Mamedyarov now.
Wow. And obviously, I would say that maybe Anish Giri, Mamedyarov, and Levon Aronian would have been mentioned as the 3 of the top favorites before the tournament started. Is it likely that one of them at least will miss the knockouts?
There's a pretty good chance of one of them missing, since none of them are safe and there's only 4 spots up for grabs. If Weiyi qualifies, then one of them probably misses.
Wow. It's going to be 2 intense final rounds. Tai, thank you for joining. We'll talk to you again after this round.
Sounds great.
Perfect. All right. Well, quite a few moves in this one. The bar slightly over to Ju Wenjun's side. What kind of game is this?
Yeah, this is heating up to be a very complex, very tense game. I've played these positions a lot from the white side, and it's so hard to keep control. Anish Giri's last move, pushing Harry to the h-pawn, that's got a bit of chaos intended behind it. Black would love to push that pawn even further, maybe just soften up the pawn structure around White's king. I was talking to a good friend of ours, Malcolm Payne, an English international master, and he always said, in rapid blitz chess, never play this with white.
Oh.
You always somehow get softened up on the king side. You always get checkmated in the end. And from my experience, that is quite likely. Every time I play Luke McShane, another English grandmaster, he always seems to play this position, suffer for a long time as black, and then eventually checkmate me by using a few tricks. So I think for classical chess, it's quite okay with white, but yeah, blitz and rapid tricky.
Sorry, David. I was just saying you can see Ju Wenjun's laughing there again. I just thought it was like we spotted yesterday, and yeah, sorry to interrupt. It was just like it's quite strange. You know, it's nice. Yeah, I mean, I like seeing that. You know, so.
Well, she is the women's world champion, and we see the Open world champion Magnus Carlsen often do the same. Maybe it is a world champion thing.
This is what you need to do more. Just laugh, open up. Yeah,
She's just thinking, oh, ha, ha, I'm better than every other woman in the world.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's a lovely opera way of singing it. David, the opera
Pretty sure
singer.
that's what Magnus thinks as well when he's laughing to himself.
I am the boss. Yeah, so.
Don't you get some endorphins, I want to say, when you laugh and when you feel happy? And
Some kind of
doesn't that
chemicals are released.
Yeah.
help your concentration level?
But you also look like a bit of a lunatic if you just go around laughing the whole time. And if you, just...
Might not make any friends if you're just laughing at your opponents every game.
Yeah, I know.
No, there's difference in laughter, right? There's laughing at your opponent when you point your finger and you go ha ha ha. But then there's like, just like I'm having a good time wherever I am in my mind, and everyone looks at you and goes, "You're a bit strange," but like, I'm down with it too, and they also walk away with a smile.
I think if my opponent started laughing, it'd be really off-putting.
Really?
Yeah, I'd be a bit weird, I'd get really paranoid. Like, what are you laughing at? Have I played a move? Why are you laughing at one of my moves? So I don't know. I wouldn't like it. So,
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It'd be strange.
I really don't like it when my opponents smile at me, but I learnt the way to stop them smiling is to just smile back. If they smile at you, just sit there. And then eventually they stop and they get triggered. Make sure that they're the ones who lose their...
Chess really is my favorite sport. I love it.
This is like psychological war games that I've never even heard of as an international master. If I was playing David and I smiled at him, he smiled back, I'd be like, we're friends.
Can't be friends at chessboard.
The surface, it was a little bit of a game being played.
Yeah.
And talking about making people smile, well, I do have to share with you a selfie, a photo that Anas Erdecheri has shared with us because he says, our commentary helps to kill time during the evening ride back home in Dubai.
Oh.
And it's Dubai. Have you ever been to Dubai? It's like full of bright lights. It's such a beautiful city.
Oh, I can
imagine. When you see this kind of cascade of blue, white, yellow lights, it's just something fantastic. And glad to be of assistance. And if you two want to send or share with us a selfie, share with us your location, or just send us your thoughts, then please tweet us using the hashtag ChessChamps, and we will feature them on the show.
Yeah, and meanwhile, a move from Zhu Wenjun. She wants to start expanding. White already has quite a lot of space with pawns, but she wants to especially kick away that black knight on the queen side from a very strong square. She wants to push her b-pawn. Maybe we can jump in, discuss some ideas, because it's really risky opening choice from Anish Giri, I've got to say. White's last move, pushing this pawn, is intended to push the b-pawn next. And b4, White gets a chance to play b4. What do you think Black should be doing? Because if this happens, for example, if Black just makes a random move, this could be very annoying for Black. This knight is the pride and joy. It needs to retreat now. I don't really see how to stop this move either. Maybe, what else can we try? Anish Giri, his idea on the previous turn was to push this pawn forward just to destabilize White over here. Okay, he actually just retreats his knight. I was going to say this is on the radar, asking White to push forward, but now maybe some dark square holes in White's position. Instead, he retreats the knight. What is the concept after White pushes forward? Does he just want to trade off a set of pawns, maybe open up the A-line for the black rook? Does he just want to step back with the knight, put some pressure now on this guy? We're going to find out.
Yeah, that's a bit mysterious, isn't it? Because White would like to initiate a set of trades in order to help make her position easier to play, and I'm thinking primarily dark square bishops.
Okay, yeah. I mean, any other exchange, I'm not 100% sure for White, because White has space, Black is cramped, so actually Black is the one maybe trying to exchange pieces to free up position. But as you say, Jovanka, maybe if the dark square bishops come off, for example, let's try and make that happen. Yeah, something along these lines. Then yeah, definitely the dark squares now. Black will feel weak on these squares. This pawn is especially weak now. Backward pawn, easy target as well for white's pieces.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world, but maybe some small issues here for black.
Yeah, I mean, I love playing these positions as white, generally. The kind of Broxy bind. I love having a bit more space, but I think you have to be very careful as white when you start pushing your pawns. Yeah. And a lot of time, black's best strategy is just to wait, right? And those pawns that Ju Wenjun has pushed, they're not protecting each other anymore. So maybe this is what Anish is thinking. He's thinking, okay, they're going to be targets later on. And you often have to just be extremely patient in these types of structures, but I don't know. I mean, I think Anish is doing okay if the knight just drops back now. Surely, can't see anything.
I mean, it could drop back to this square as well, maybe to come and attack. You mentioned the weak pawns. This one is undefended. Maybe this would be one idea. The one thing I don't think he should be doing is putting his knight on the edge of the board. That just looks like a bad square. So, yeah, one of these two squares looks very sensible for the knight. And it is a waiting game. Eventually, I'm slightly worried about white's pawn structure. I mentioned losing a few games. In my history, I remember also something very, very similar to this when I played some blitz and rapid games against Garry Kasparov. He managed to beat me in these types of positions by...
Name drop.
Yeah, but name dropping. But he really, with some really instructive manoeuvres, managed to take advantage of these pawns being loose. And something very similar to this, he often brought his knight out, tried to provoke me to touch this pawn. Often he would also push this pawn forward, force me, for example, say here, to weaken, and then he would fix something on this square. It's not easy to achieve right now for black, but yeah, there's all sorts of ideas later. And maybe, I was going to say maybe Anish, because he's played such an ambitious opening, he was always going to keep pieces on the board. So he retreats his knight to this square. No exchanges. He wants to leap into the center. Maybe with this knight, maybe with this knight later. Really tense. I think objectively, white's probably better. White has the advantage in a classical game, but in rapid chess, there's a lot of space and therefore a lot of squares to keep guard of for white. Yeah. It's just one of those positions. I think I'm scarred by my personal memories on this position. But objectively, nothing to worry about yet for Ju Wenjun.
Yeah, like you say, I also found the problem with this type of position, even in a classical game, is that you have to be precise right now. Otherwise, if you lose control, then black will get all of this counterplay that's just too hot to handle. And the problem with this time control is that, you're burning all the time. So when the critical moments hit, say around move 30, you're playing with 1 minute on the clock.
Yeah,
and things go wrong.
And it is pushing those pawns too soon. I mean, it's kind of the typical thing in a Broxy bind when you have the white pawns. We can probably highlight them just on the light squares. Don't have to move any pieces, but this is kind of a Broxy bind setup. And you get this against a lot of different black setups. When you start pushing your queenside pawns, well, they can actually it's really bad to do that because pawns can't go backwards. And maybe David here, black can just start attacking them. I mean, why not? Why not move the knight in? You want the B pawn, the white pawn next to that to be back now, defending that one, but it's not. It's prematurely gone forwards, I think. And black's got a very easy plan here. The bishop can come out and attack that pawn again. And it actually starts to look a bit uncomfortable, I think, for white. Because maybe those pawns went forwards a bit too quickly there. So,
I mean, the evaluation bar really hates Ju Wenjun's last move. I said there was nothing to worry about immediately, but maybe now, as Simon points out, how do we defend this pawn? Do you have to defend it with the queen? It does feel a bit loose. I don't see an immediate knockout blow though, so maybe it's just to do with again something that I've experienced, just to do with this pawn pushing forward, undermining white's duo over here. If we step forward again, then black can start taking control over the dark squares, maybe with the bishop, maybe even with the queen coming forward, kind of sneaking into white's half. And if black's queen lands on this square, for example, the knight might follow in, and you can definitely imagine attack brewing against the white king.
Anish has only been able to win 3 games so far in the tournament. Is he struggling, though, to sort of finish it off when he does have a good position on the board?
Possibly. Maybe that's been his trademark in his earlier years. building up these great positions and then not finishing them off. There have been a couple of games in this tournament that I've seen at least where he's played very, very well, but his opponents have just played equally well, and it's sometimes that just happens in chess at the top level.
Yeah.
Well, you have to remember, I think he's in the 8th spot place, just looking at the scores now. So it's really like this is a key game. Only the top 8 players qualify, and there's only 2 games to go. So just having a little update. It looks like at the moment Anish is in 8th, and Ju Wenjun is in 10th. So this is really a key game for qualification, major game.
If she wins this, they will be on the same score. Weiyi was supposed to play Rajabov in this round, so that's 3 points for Weiyi, who is now on 19 points. So definitely this is a game where Anish needs points, and it's a crucial game for Ju Wenjun.
Yeah, I mean, she's in a must-win situation in this game and her next game.
Yeah.
On the plus side, I did notice she had white when she beat Hans Niemann in the last round. She's got white again, and I saw some stats a while ago in these round-robin tournaments, all-play-all tournaments. Often players in half the players, they'll get double whites at some point, and normally if you win the first game and you get white again in the second game, you tend to win again. It's just a pattern. Maybe it's just that confidence boost of winning the first white game. I think there's some statistics out there. So just maybe from that mindset point of view, she's thinking, okay, I'm in great form with white, just beat Hans Niemann. White again now against Giri. He's not in the best of form, so she might try and take some risks later to try and win, but at the moment, there is a big threat facing her. Black's knight has jumped forward, so the white H-pawn is under fire twice from Black's knight and from Black's light-squared bishop.
Yeah.
How to defend? Push that pawn forward or defend it with the king?
I guess pushing it forwards makes sense to force the black knight to make a decision about what it's going to do. And I imagine the black knight will come towards the centre or something, David? Or?
Yeah, unless Anish Giri is feeling extra greedy. So this pawn is attacked twice, as we mentioned. I don't think defending it with the king's too great here because Black's pawn will step forward, putting more pressure on the king. And if now we block, which we want to do, ideally we never want to touch that Black H-pawn, and then suddenly, some nasty checks. And Black takes control. So, Simon, you think this one? I agree, that looks most natural.
Can you come? I mean, I'd love, and if you want to be really funky, you throw the black knight in, but you also might just look like a complete idiot and lose that knight. But it does force maybe the white king to go into the centre. Yeah. I mean,
because if the white king goes towards the knight can capture a pawn safely. So we have to go towards the centre,
and that's quite a weird. I mean, that's a very risky way to play.
It's a really concrete idea, because
He's
then
done it.
He's done it.
He's done it.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, so. Well, Ju is going to be forced to put her king on that very odd square. And now the question is...
Can we just checkmate?
Yeah.
Can we just go for this pawn? But I guess this is just defended by White's queen, perhaps.
And is the knight ever going to get out of that strange square? Because now the black knight doesn't have anywhere it can move to. Yeah. So you could just end up losing the knight. So it's a very risky way for Anish to play, it seems. And he probably didn't need to do this.
Well, he's gone for an attacking move. He's developed the light square bishop, and that attacks the pawn on c4. And again, there's some certain issues. How are you going to defend that? I mean, are you going to step forward with the queen? Are you just going to...
Yeah, you could step forward with the queen, defending this guy. Struggling for other ideas here, to be honest. Pushing this pawn forward, it's attacked, doesn't feel right just because it feels like we're opening up the position when White's king is actually the more vulnerable of the two. All that Black needs to do is somehow get a bishop, for example, onto this diagonal, and the White king is very awkwardly placed now, almost trapped. White has to throw something in the way to block now, and that would end quite badly. So, yeah, I mean, bad king versus bad knight. Which one is going to decide this game?
So if you defend the pawn, David, is there any... Yeah, so
I didn't see any follow-up for Giri immediately.
Nothing concrete as yet. So
I just have a sneaky feeling he intends to push and really kind of break his knight out to freedom forcefully.
I love seeing Anish play like this because we're so used to Anish, not playing the kings in defence. I can't remember him ever playing this opening, which is a really exciting opening to play. I recommend it. And we were talking about Bobby Fischer. Yeah. It was Bobby Fischer was really the player who made this opening from the black perspective popular. I mean, Bobby liked playing for a win, as we heard Magnus say, and he started playing the Kings in defence, won loads of great games. Then Gary Kasparov played the Kings in defence, and David had the honour of playing him in some of those games. And but Anish never plays like this, really, so it's great to see him go for the attack and play in this aggressive way. So
maybe it's just that freedom of playing someone he thinks, he's a favourite against, someone slightly lower rated. But when Anish attacks, I've seen him play fantastically well. Sometimes it's just maybe fighting against his instincts sometimes, but it also gives him some freedom. So I would love to see a move like this one, pushing the pawn to g5, and the whole idea would be to get the black queen into the attack, maybe start opening up some more lines against the white king. And the knight we mentioned looks bad for black, but it is very safely defended by the bishop for now. White's a bit tied up. White's knight, white's queen, they're tied down to defending this pawn on c4 square.
See, David, when you attack, you're a natural. G5 is a great move. I mean, I know you prefer your grinding nowadays, but I want to see you play would you play the Kings in defence for me?
I was thinking
just
about...
once? Olympiad? Don't give your prep away.
No comment.
No comment.
Well, if you please play g5 now, Anish.
Oh, come on.
The queen has defended this pawn. OK, process of elimination. What else? The black rook looks nice, but it has no entry squares in white's half of the board. You don't really want to ever touch this bishop. It's your best piece. This knight's doing a good job attacking this c4 pawn. Bishop's doing a good job. The only pieces you can really improve for black are these two, but black's rook is great. We want to improve the queen, therefore open up a square for her. That would be my thinking, at least. And white's... the clear target in white's camp is the king, so we need to get towards it. You could also make an argument for this move, trying to threaten some checkmates, try to take this pawn. Actually, the white king would be trapped there. This would be on the radar too, but...
I love your g5.
Yeah, I think the g5 move is the winner for me, because everything else just feels a little bit slow. Here, you've accelerated the play, and the pressure is on Jew, to come up with a good defensive move. White's pieces are in a real tangle. It's very difficult to even suggest a single piece to improve themselves.
We talked about black's pieces. White's knight stuck defending this pawn, white's queen defending this pawn. White's knight, if it ever moves, then it would allow maybe the black rook to come into the position. White's rook stuck defending this bishop stuck defending its knight. The king unable to move g5.
On the board.
Anish, he's attacking.
Yes.
A for attack.
We love it. We love Anish attacking. This is great stuff. And David, you saw this idea straight away as well. So
I'm just trying to channel my inner Gary Kasparov. What would he do? He would throw all the pieces towards the white king.
Can I ask you about that? Because obviously this game's really heating up, and it seems like Anish is going for this final onslaught. But playing Kasparov in some blitz games and some rapid games, he's considered to be one of the best players, if not the best player of all time. You were over at his house, and what was that like?
It was scary. I'm always scared when I play these top guys just because they're so good, but he has this aura around him. He's especially strong. He was world champion for, 15 years, and #1 for longer. So it was intimidating. We ended up playing on a balcony in Croatia by the beach, and he was just in shorts. So I was like, wait, have I been tricked into some holiday? But once the game started, he was really intense. And I remember, so we played 9 rapid games first, and then 18 blitz games. But the rapid games, we kind of discussed what openings I would try and test him in, what openings I would play, because he was about to make a comeback and play another tournament in St. Louis. And he said, OK, test me in some King's Indians, play some King's Indians. And I was like, no, but that's your strong point, and that's my weak point. But I ended up playing similar openings to this one, to Zhu Wenjun, and what she's doing right now. And I think I just got checkmated 3 times in my first 3 white games. And I just thought, I didn't even make any blunders. I was just getting checkmated. He would just build up all his pieces and then break through. And I just thought, this guy, he's just not, he's unstoppable. Just the energy. He'd been retired for 12 years at this point. From classical chess, at least. So
I can remember I met him once, and the thing you say about his aura, his energy, is totally true. A friend of mine won the Under-18 World Championships, and they had something at the Houses of Parliament. And he was supposed to invite his brother along. I had to pretend to be his brother to get in the Houses of Parliament. A little bit strange. But Garry Kasparov was there, and and there was free champagne as well. Ooh. So I went out to Garry Kasparov with my rosy cheeks at the time, and you could just feel there's something about him special. It was like some magic. He just had this energy, which some people do, just like some aura of like, I'm a powerful person about him, and it was quite intimidating, I have to say, because there's some magic around him, really. So yeah. But I mean, a brilliant player, and one of the best players ever in the King's Indian defence, if not the best player probably of all time. So yeah.
I have to say, my experiences of all the world champions that I've met, they have a very similar aura. You know, you kind of feel that they are killers. You know, they have this ruthlessness to them.
But what comes first, that aura or the World Championship title? Does it come with the title, or is it certain players?
I just feel that they get this. They have this aura. I mean, they have that dedication and ruthlessness. That they really, you know, when you're sat there facing them over the board, they want to rip you apart, you know. and with most other grandmasters, I would say, you don't get that feeling. You kind of get the feeling, it's chess is chess, you know. It's an enjoyment, it's a blood sport, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, but with them, even in day, I mean, I remember bumping into Karpov in the lift, and maybe it was just me, but, you know, I felt that he had very, very icy eyes, and he was very piercing, and he just looked at me, and I could feel like he was assessing my whole character, my whole being.
Like a fish.
Yeah, like a fish. No, he was not a fish.
That's what, I remember Korchnoi said this.
Korchnoi famously said his name means
he said he's like a fish. He's slimy like a fish. Everything like him is a fish. He's a fish. It's just like,
of cup.
That was it. Of cup. He's a fish. He's a slimy fish.
But I can tell you, he was no fish, and it didn't really help the matter that I actually, you know, I needed to go to the ground floor, and I got off in the mezzanine. And I flounced off, and I was like, oh my goodness me, I'm going to have to walk back into the lift, and he's going to know that I've made this elementary mistake of getting off of the wrong floor. And I was like, no, I can't face this. I'm going to have to just live by my mistake and walk down those stairs. So, yeah.
Oh, well, the world champions. We do have a world champion in this game, Zhu Wenjun, women's world champion, and a bunch of moves, the bar going up for Anish now.
Yeah, a bunch of moves, and actually the queens have come off the board, so no big attack. This game is not going to end in checkmate in the next couple of moves, but actually, it just feels like White's position is collapsing. It feels like it's all falling apart. Oh, I was going to say no checkmates, but that one is brutal. I was expecting Black's knight to jump in, but instead the rook dives into the position.
What a beautiful move, David.
Wonderful move. Yeah. We should just backtrack a couple of moves. We saw this incredible attacking idea from Anish Giri. White did not want to see the Black queen jump into the action, so instead Zhu Wenjun forced the queens off, which is understandable, but it's come at the price of opening up paths for the black rooks. And look at these two black rooks. This line, they're both going to come in at some point. And after pawn takes pawn, not reacting to the attack on his knight, Anish instead jumped in and threatened checkmate. Rook takes pawn would happen. For example, pawn takes knight, and this would end in checkmate. So this is a mating net the white king sits in. Zhu Wenjun thinks the only way to save herself is to retreat this knight, but it's hanging by a thread. No escape squares for the king now. What is the killer blow?
Wow, that black knight jumping in is very tempting, isn't it, at some point?
This knight jumping, maybe.
And it's funny that one of the killer pieces is that weird black knight on the edge of the board as well, creating those checkmate fronts and you know, pinning the white king down to where it is at the moment. But this is looks very scary for White. White's piece is just huddling there on the back rank.
I'm looking at lines like this one, so the black knight jumping in, if White plays bishop takes bishop, can we just ignore it and jump in with the other rook to threaten a nasty checkmate again? I mean, this looks so scary for White. Maybe White can survive here by eliminating, we've been talking about it a long time, eliminating that knight on the edge of the board. But, I mean, it's super scary for Zhu Wenjun right now. This knight move is the obvious one. Maybe there are others. Maybe the rook can jump in immediately to the second rank.
I was thinking that one as well, but I hadn't worked out the details. But goodness me, this position is scary. I mean, just looking at the bar's like it's completely lost for White. And definitely party time for Anish.
Yeah, he's got 8.5 minutes against 2.5 as well, so huge advantage on the clock. It definitely feels like he's more familiar with the plans, the ideas in this type of position, and now it's just about the details, working out what to play first. I mean, bringing the knight in looks so natural, can't be a mistake. If the knight is ever captured, this is just going to end in disaster for the white king. So this would be maybe the safe alternative. Yeah, I mean, bring the rook forward as well, just looks too tempting. Just with the idea that if the white bishop moves, then you can actually sacrifice your rook with a checkmate. All the checkmates, we'll just show them as they come on the board. But also the idea is if the black knight is captured, the black bishop can just jump in, and still some pressure along the second rank. Once the black bishop retreats on the next turn, the two black rooks are going to be the dominant pieces. Just look how active they are compared to white's pieces right now. All of white's pieces kind of huddled together. And he does play this.
Yeah, it is, the black pieces are just having fun here. And there's nothing to do. I can't see a single defensive move.
I mean, you might just have to, at some point, just trade off this really strong black knight just to get your king breathing again. But two bishops against two knights now, it's clear the bishops are better. I mean, the bishop will just retreat and look at the domination.
This reminds me of a Karpov-Kasparov game, actually, from the World Championships. One of the most famous ones where Kasparov won with the black pieces, where Karpov's piece, it was just in the middle on the back rank, huddling around. There was some great fights in their encounters.
Like this, yeah, just kind of barely clinging on,
yeah, they're
hanging
all
by a thread.
Sort of discord, all defending, all passive. And Kasparov was brilliant with the energy he gave his pieces. He just somehow, they jumped into life like no one else's pieces.
Yeah, looking very, very good for Anish Giri in the current position. Computer maybe thinks that some small chance for Zhu Wenjun, but in practical terms, it's all gone against her. She's down to 1 minute, and these two rooks are going to do significant damage in the near future.
We do see a result. Arjun Nergaisi has won his game against Jeffrey Chong, and that means the youngest player in the tournament is currently in the lead. If Samuel Sevian loses to Jan-Krzysztof Duda in this round, then Nergaisi will have the sole lead heading into the final round in the preliminaries. He's playing a fantastic tournament, and he has won 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 5 last games, Arjun, in great shape.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the man of the year for me the last 12 months.
Really?
Arjun Nergaisi, 2021, 2022. I mean, the improvement, he's gained a couple of 100 points since the pandemic started. But not just that, he's knocking on the door of 2,700. He's won so many events. And it looks like he's still got so much room to improve.
Yeah.
I've talked about him with some of the top players in the world, and they think he's going to make that next step up already. So, the likes of him and Prag might be the two to join the world's elite. And just beating everyone at the moment in this tournament, Arjun.
Fantastic. We can take a look at the current standings, actually. It's very interesting to follow. Only 8 players will qualify for the knockout stage, and Mamedyarov on 18 points, same as Anish Giri and Levon Aronian heading into this round. And Levon Bar is roughly to the middle in his game against Leonid Dominguez. Mamedyarov, could he be about to lose against Aryan Tari? And that's going to be dramatic for Shahryar Mamedyarov if Levon is able, and Anish is able to get points in this round. It's going to be Shahryar outside top 8 if he loses this game. Wow.
Yeah, some really wild positions, especially in the Mamedyarov games. So,
wow.
Yeah, nobody's safe yet. Just those top guys, I guess, the youngsters, they can relax a bit.
Yeah.
But the more experienced players, all to play for. And meanwhile, that variation we actually showed a few moments ago has happened on the board. We did see a couple of exchanges, so it's 2 bishops against 2 knights right now. And does Anish Giri have the time to just save one of his bishops? I would retreat the dark squared bishop somewhere. Yeah. I'm not sure where, but...
Yeah, I agree. Maybe you don't have to worry about your pawn. You can just put it in the middle and you can move your king up. 2 bishops that are very strong, but at least white's not losing immediately. Yeah. that's about the only thing I can say about, good about white's position, because it was looking like there could be a checkmate a couple of moves ago.
We haven't seen Zhu Wenjun smile for a while. That says it all, though, about white's position, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I just feel that the black rooks, they're so strong on the second row. I think that those 2 rooks combined are just going to be a killer duo. I think white's position is just going to crack.
Yeah, It's just about making it crack for Nishikori, finding the way to crack the white position. She's covered everything, Xu Wenjun, so he might need to take a time out. He does retreat his bishop to a great square.
I think the problem here is that white doesn't really have any moves, right? I mean, let's just say you move your king forwards. Again, this strategy is trying to find the best move for your opponent, not looking at your own moves, but looking at your opponent's moves. It's a great strategy to improve. Because if you find that your opponent doesn't have any moves, or the moves are going to make their position worse, it's actually best to wait. And there's a phrase, you wait until they basically implode. You don't have to force the issue. And I don't know, maybe white has some ways to improve, but I can't see many good moves.
I don't see it at all.
I mean,
this knight is stuck, otherwise the bishop will break through on this diagonal. This knight is stuck. This one is stuck, defending this pawn. Okay, he has actually played this move that you mentioned there, Simon, just going towards this pawn now as black. So these two knights are stuck, just trying to hold everything together. If these knights are stuck, it means this rook cannot break out either. This rook is stuck defending this pawn. These pawns are just immobilized. If you push any of them forward, they'll just drop.
Totally, and black has a passed pawn as well. I mean, it's not that far advanced, but it could be.
Yeah, later it has a clear run through. And maybe the only piece that can move safely right now is the king. But if the king moves forward, yes, you kick the bishop, but the bishop can just retreat somewhere, and the king actually finds itself on a really uncomfortable file rank anyway. So
it's like Zugzwang, really.
Yeah, you just have to go back and sit and wait.
She doesn't have too much time on the clock, and she made that move with 8 seconds to spare. Okay, king moves, bishop is going to retreat. Yeah,
I think this is the safest square. Okay, he goes back. I was going to suggest this one as well, but I was reluctant to even dream of allowing an exchange, a trade of one set of pieces.
Xu Wenjun has less than 5 seconds on the clock, and she makes a trade, and again is forced to defend pawns passively.
Yeah, but now she's still in Zugzwang. Look at the white knight, look at the white rooks. They're all stuck defending.
Knight stable.
Yeah.
So we got it. We got it on the board.
Theme of the day, Simon.
Yeah, it is on the board, and the king is marching up. The c pawn is also going to start marching forward.
Yeah, you can push that black c pawn now. The black king can just munch on a pawn. There we go. I wouldn't even touch that black c pawn right now. I would just use the black king just to go and take everything.
Yeah, but you're sadistic, David.
Sorry.
That's because you want to get to move 100.
You'd probably triangulate a couple of times on the way,
Piece twice, and then.
Have you ever had that urge to move your king to every square on the board before you make progress?
Yeah,
don't say you have.
No, but in bullet chess, I've done that a few times.
Really?
I had a 305 move bullet game once.
305?
I had 2 queens trapping my opponent's king, and then I just went to every square on the board. Then I pushed a pawn, then every square on the board. And then I stalemated him on move 305.
Oh, no. How could you make 305 moves in a bullet game?
In 1 minute, yeah.
In
lots
1
of
minute?
moves.
So 60 seconds, you made 305 moves?
Yeah, that's my record, at least.
That's how many moves? OK, I can work this out. 60, 100. It might take me a while. The pressure's on.
I'll mention in the meantime, a win for Jan-Krzysztof Duda against Samuel Sevian. The first loss for young Samuel in the tournament. He's still safe to qualify, but this means the youngest player in the tournament, Arjun Erigaisi, is in top of the table. Wow, impressive stuff.
Yeah. God, that's like 5-6 moves a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just worked. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Wow.
With the mouse, it's possible. The pre-moves. Over the board, it would be a bit trickier. But we should say Duda first of all. Great result for him. He must be closing in on Magnus now, but Sam Sevian, first defeat of the tournament.
Yeah.
How will he bounce back? That's a big question now, going forward.
And also, the problem for these youngsters, they're playing fantastic chess. They're on top of the table. But the problem is these top guns, the favorites before the tournament, they're doing like so-and-so. So they're going to face these players in the knockout stage, which is a whole different story, correct? So right now, wouldn't it be Arjun against Anish, perhaps?
Yeah, imagine
or Levon,
you dominate, you think, my reward will be an easier pairing in the knockouts, and then you play Aronian or Anish. Life isn't fair.
Yeah, it's brutal. The only tournament Arjun played last season was the Gold Money Asian Rapid. He did make it to the quarterfinals to face Levon, right?
Yes.
could you have it so like you got 8 people who qualify, the top 4 pick who they play? Just to have it like a little bit of drama, because it's like, why are you picking me? You know, it's like, you know, so the person who comes top can pick his opponent or pick her opponent. I think it'd be quite controversial, because it's like, you know, you could really home in on people. It's like, oh, come on, but it could be quite interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of the opposite from when you have pickings in gym class, for example. You want to be the one picked first.
Yeah.
Here it's kind of, oh no,
And
the worst player.
we have a result. Ju Wenjun has lost to Anish Giri.
3 points for Anish, 3 very important points for Anish, but now it's looking very good for him to qualify for the knockout stage. It's looking very bad for Ju Wenjun, perhaps maybe a slight chance, but it's going to be hard now for her to qualify for the knockout stage. So we're jumping into this one. Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. He was inside top 8 before this round, but if he loses this game to Aryan, he could be outside, and the bar is loving it for the Norwegian.
The bar is loving it for Black right now. If we do a quick count, Black is 1 pawn up in the position. It's also a very, very strong pawn. If you look on the C3 square, Black has a far advanced pass pawn, 2 squares away from promotion. But most of all, I think it's the fact that Black's king is actually safer than the White king. Black's king nicely tucked away, Black's knight in the center of the board controlling everything. And if Tari gets time now, he's just going to reposition the Black rooks and go towards the White king. It feels like White's pieces just not coordinated. White's queen kind of distanced from the rest of her army.
Very hard to find counterplay for Whites as well. I mean, Black's got some simple plans of attack, maybe push Freddie the pawn, but what does White do here? I can't see any easy way for White to generate play, and that's a big thing. Time situation where they're both getting very short as well here.
Yeah, White would love to go for the Black king, but how can you go for the Black king while your queen is all the way on the other side of the board? Yeah, you're completely right there, Simon. An easy plan of pushing this pawn, or maybe kind of lining both rooks up on the g-file later against this guy. Black's 2 pieces here actually are dominant rather than the White pieces. The White knight is okay maybe, but the White bishop not great, just a blockader. So it's very one-sided traffic right now. It's just about whether Tari can hold his nerve and find the right maneuvers. The Black queen as well can join the action at her own will. So looking good for Black.
Yeah, certainly looking good. And is there any chance for Shakhriyar to kind of create his confusion, his magic? Difficult, right?
I can't see how. I mean, that's the thing. If there's any way he could get any counterplay here, then you'd kind of maybe have a little bet on him, because he's unbelievably good when he has the initiative. But I can't see any way at all. I mean, this move he's just played, okay. I mean, it doesn't really help. And it's all Black's having all the fun here.
Yeah. And, well, we are having all the fun. Look at the bottom half of the screen. All games have ended with a winner this round. Wow. I mean, the players are fighting so hard for qualification. I love to see this.
Have we seen that before?
I don't think so.
We may have done at some point, but it's been a while. Every game decided.
Another one as well. Just came in like Richard won that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wow.
Richard, a win for him against Sam Shanklin. Wow. And this one, I mean, it looks like another one.
Yeah.
Most likely. We've probably jinxed it now.
Yeah.
This game will probably be a draw after we said they were all decided. But either way, imagine in such a crunch round for everyone, for the standings, everyone taking risks. But, I mean, you nearly never see this at the top level. Yeah. That shows how dedicated they are, how much they care, how much they all want to win.
Absolutely. And, well, the players, they will need your good energy now heading into that final round. So many of them fighting to qualify for the knockout stage. So do tweet us using the hashtag ChessJams. Who are you rooting for? Who do you really hope to see in the knockout stage tomorrow? Is Shakhriyar Mamedyarov one of them, for example? He probably now has to win in the final round if he loses this game.
And I was just checking, does Aryan have any chance of getting through if he wins the next 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, he did this last time. He won all of his games on one of the days, and he just about qualified. He's a real comeback kid, isn't he? So we'll have to ask the stats man, I guess, won't we, a bit later on.
Yeah, he looks so focused, Aryan.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just how things happen. You have one disastrous day. Aryan really struggled in the last couple of days. But then all the pressure is off your shoulders. You just relax, you play chess, your opponents take risks against you, and suddenly things just fall in your lap. And not to say that Aryan hasn't had to work for these wins, especially against Duda. That was great technique to win that one. But yeah, if he wins this game now, he'd deserve a chance to qualify.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the knights have come off the board, which I guess only helps black. White's knight was his only remaining piece, only remaining strong piece, sorry. So now, okay, the bishop retreating means that black's rook on the d-file, the open file, is ready to enter white's position. I'm just looking at those two black pawns, the f3 pawn and the c3 pawn. Yeah, they're just thorns in the white side. How are you ever going to get rid of those two pawns?
Yeah.
For both the middle game and the end game, they're fantastic.
Yeah, totally. And the only thing that black probably needs to do is take a little bit of care with his king. But, okay, he doesn't have to worry about it for the time being. But once he's done that, then his position is totally secure.
Yeah. So the black queen has to make sure she chooses a safe square.
And
she does so.
What about the clock situation? Is there a chance for Aronian to maybe mess it up? Oh, is he good with?
It's very hard to mess it up, isn't it, with the board? If you just wanted to push the pawn to give your king a window to jump out of at some point, you can't really lose, can you? I mean, you can't. It's very hard to blunder here. So, but I mean, there's probably going to be something more vicious here. Just maybe take the pawn or bring your queen in even.
Yeah, I would go for your move, Simon. Just give the black king some breathing space, give it some
just
air.
in case. Yeah.
Whatever else happens, nothing drastic can go wrong.
Maybe the queen coming. I think this could be very strong as well, though.
Well, yeah, that's threatening to capture the rook, and that would come with a lot of devastating threats. So yeah, you have to defend that.
Yeah, but how do you defend that white rook? It's not easy at all. If you move your king to defend that white rook, then you just walk into the firing line. Maybe you just have to move the white rook away.
Oh, he did that with 2 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, you saw it on his camera. Mamedyarov, he's not used to being in this time situation. He kind of looked at the clock and he was shocked, I think. But
his position is just creaking. It's
crumbling.
Yeah, it's going to fall apart.
Ooh, little trick, back rank. So.
Yep, if this rook is captured, which it shouldn't be, this rook is poisoned. If black plays rook takes rook, the white queen will go up to the top of the board and checkmate the black king. Oof, run away with the rook. Yeah. Somewhere.
Anywhere. And, OK, and look at the weaknesses along the second row for Shakhriyar. That is just going to be critical.
Yeah. Checkmate in one, threatened.
And that's it. Game over. Aronian has won.
Wow. 3 points for Aronian, 0 points for Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. That means he is currently outside top 8 to qualify, and it's going to be a dramatic final round for Mamedyarov. It seems he has been in control, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, but now with only 1 round to go, he is outside the knockout stage. He's going to need a point and preferably a win when he faces off against Samuel Sevian, coming from his first loss in the tournament. Ooh, all the drama, you guys. It continues. The final round in the preliminaries is coming up in 9 minutes. So stay with us. We'll be back after a short commercial break.
So we just race to the line. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna crush it. Set, go!
When someone asks me how my chess game is going,
sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Hi there, it's me, John Chess, inventor of chess. And are you sick of sucking at chess? Well, lucky for you, I have also invented AIM chess. Look at this chess puzzle. Did you solve it? Of course not, that's because you're not using Aim Chess. Aim Chess is a digital chess trainer that helps you improve by creating unique lessons based on your recent games. Just link your chess.com, Lee Chess, or Chess24 account and feel that brain wrinkle. Yeah, see, you shouldn't have blundered your queen just there. Now I know! Thanks, Aim Chess. Now all that's left to figure out is how that funny horse moves. They even got acquired by that one chess player other than Hikaru, so you know it's good. Hi, it's me, that guy I just mentioned, and I'm the best chess man in the world. But thanks to Aim Chess, I also have a girlfriend now as well. This could be you! Personalized training, game reports and analysis disease, study plans, thick, luscious hair, intuition builder. All this and more available on Aim Chess.
Hello?
Courtney, did you know that Aim Chess users improve their ratings 43% faster than average?
What?
So what are you waiting for? Join Aim Chess today. Links will be somewhere, probably. I don't know, I just made the video. Aim Chess. Sign up now and get 50k silver and 2 free months off your VPN. Now that's what I call a Queen's Gambit. That's so fucking dumb. Aim Chess. For when you aim to chess. That's their slogan. It's what they say. Ready, aim, chess. That's another. It's... Look, just sign up for Aim Chess, okay? Just, come on, literally, why not? All right, just stop being a dick for like 5 seconds and just go, all right? Jesus Christ.
Welcome back to FTX Road to Miami. In 4 minutes, the final round in the preliminaries will start, and it's dramatic for so many players to qualify for the knockout stage. It's going to be a fun final round. But first, here is today's FTX exchange.
Sometimes in chess, you have to exchange one type of advantage for another. In this game between Jan-Krzysztof Duda as white and Sam Sevian as black, we saw a fantastic change and transformation of the position. Duda here has a very promising position, of course. The white knight on f5, we say, will thrive. The knight here, a great attacking piece, but he actually sacrificed it for just a pawn by taking the pawn in front of the black king, and after a recapture, white is a pawn down, but in return, he gets all the dark squares. The shelter in front of the black king as well has been ripped away, and we saw black's king unable to survive. It's vulnerable on this diagonal from the white bishop, but also from this file from the white queen. To show what happened at the end, black's rook came across, but after one check, another check from the bishop, and yet another check, black resigned. There's simply nowhere safe for the king to go. If it retreats, white wins a rook. Changing one type of advantage into another here, going for the attack, that is a key concept in chess.
Samuel Sevian losing his first game in the tournament. Let's take a look at the results from the 14th round in the preliminaries. All games ended up with a winner. That must be a historic round in the Champions Chess Tour. And most notably, we are looking at Levon Aronian, 3 points against Lenia Dominguez, and Jan-Krzysztof Duda getting that win against Samuel Sevian. Arjan Tari beating Mamedyarov to knock him outside top 8 for now. Arjun Nerigaisi winning against Jeffrey Chong to take the lead in the tournament, and Anish Giri, 3 very important points against Ju Wenjun. So heading into the final round, these are the standings. Nerigaisi on top, 1 point lead to Samuel Sevian. Jan-Krzysztof Duda in third place. And then we do have Levon, Aronian and Anish Giri now on 21 points. Weiyi, he has that crucial 8th place currently with 19 points. And Shakhriyar Mamedyarov outside top 8 with 18 points. Look at that. Also Ariantari now on 17 points. So, Ty, can you update us? Who still has a chance to qualify and who needs to win in this final round?
So Weiyi needs to win to clinch. At this point, getting to 22 points is enough. So Weiyi can clinch with a win, and Giri and Aronian can both clinch with the draw. They're also probably in either way. But that looks like the sort of the three favorites right here. However, Mamedyarov and Tari still have chances if they slip up. There's, for example, a scenario if Weiyi wins and Mamedyarov wins, he would be temporarily tied with Giri and Aronian for that 7, 8, 9 spot, and he has the best tie breaks. So if Weiyi and Mamedyarov both win, Giri and Aronian are in a little bit of danger. If they were to lose, they could finish 9th behind Shock on tie breaks.
Ooh, wow. So this could be a round to pay attention to all the games.
It could, and if Weiyi and Shock both fail to get to 21, that opens the door for Ariantari if he wins.
Aha. But basically for Ariantari, it's just must win. And then he'll have to check the other results.
And get lucky. I mean, he could be eliminated by other results regardless, but if he wins, he still has a chance if the other results go the way he needs.
Okay. Finally, just an update on Jan-Krzysztof Duda and the tour ratings. Winning in the previous round, is he anywhere close to Magnus Carlsen on the tour ratings right now?
He is 10 points back, and I think if he wins this final game, he'd gain 9. So he can get very quite catch Magnus this round.
Wow, that's also going to be interesting to follow. Ty, thank you so much for all your stats. And we are about to start the 15th and final round in the preliminaries. It might be a must-win situation for Mamedyarov. He is outside top 8, and Samuel Sevian is coming from his only loss so far in the tournament. Maybe he wants to clinch first place in the preliminaries. Here we go.
Here we go, and Sam Sevian, after suffering his first defeat of the tournament, maybe he'll just want to play it safe, but no, it's an open Sicilian. Mamedyarov needs to win, so this is a good opening choice for him. And what's this variation called?
Is it not called the Taimanov?
It's not the Taimanov with the 2 knights. Normally that would be with Black's queen coming out.
So it's that strange?
It's not that strange. It happens it's very trendy, I must say, but I always forget the name of it. This specific variation, because it gives White a very direct option here. White's most principled move is to actually trade off the knights. But, OK, Sevian says no. He just pushes a pawn, stopping Black's bishop, the dark square bishop, from coming out to create a pin. And this move's been played by Caruana, by some other very strong players, I think by Karyakin. And, OK, how will Mamedyarov react? He's not really wanting to sit there and just kind of exchange off pieces right now, so he'll like to keep tension if he can. OK, he just develops his bishop. And, yeah, again, it's all about opening choice when you're in these must-win type of situations, and I think this is a decent choice, at least from Mamedyarov.
Yeah.
It's good to see a Sicilian rather than a Berlin defence, for example.
Could it be called the Sicilian 4 Knights?
I was going to say the 4 Knights variation, yeah. Maybe it is.
I think
it's that simple.
Probably dates back to famous tournament in Portugal in 1918. No, I can't. I just can't put it off. I'm going to crack up. I've done it once today, and that's enough. So.
You've done well, though, Simon, today already.
Yeah, I won't push my luck, make up some rubbish. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell now you're going to go back and research. You're going to kind of memorise a whole list of openings, and then you'll catch us, and then you can kind of make us guess who's whether you're lying, whether you're telling the truth.
Could I have pulled that off then? Probably not, actually. So I just couldn't keep a straight face. But yeah, this could be very exciting, couldn't it, this position? And this is certainly Mamedyarov, thinking maybe a must-win situation with the black pieces, by the sounds of it, has got a variation that he'd be happy with, at least.
Yeah, and it's not mainstream anymore. Jovanka, I'm curious if there are any games in this situation, in this position already, because both sides have done some weird stuff. Black has been quite provocative. Black has not touched the D pawn, and normally in the Sicilian, quite early, you want to touch that pawn to stop White's central pawn advancing. Also, White's wasted a bit of time with this little kind of pawn move on the side of the board.
Yep, there's been over 100 games in this particular position.
Not too many.
No, not too many. And the critical question now for Mamedyarov is, what is he going to do about the centre? Is he going to strike now, which is the most popular move by far, or is he trying to keep it a bit more compact, kind of adopt some kind of hedgehog formation and just step the queen's pawn one square forward? No, he goes for a lesser-known move and instead develops the queen. Now, this one's not so popular, but should White castle, then it will be back into the mainstream.
Yeah, so it's just a kind of flexible move there by Mamedyarov. He doesn't want to commit his pawns yet. He's maybe just seeing which side Sam Sevian castles on. OK, Sevian pushes a pawn forward. I was going to say after suffering his first defeat, maybe he'll just try and take a timeout, a calmer game, just kind of move on, get the prelims done and dusted. But no, he's fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, I mean, we could even see a situation where, OK, I was going to say after this pawn move, he could go, well, you know, I've advanced 2 pawns onto the 4th row. Yeah. Why not throw a 3rd into the mix? In fact, that's the most popular move. This actually has only been played about 11, 12 times. Wow. But the most popular continuation, push that pawn forward, pawn storm.
And then, Kaja, we might see your favourite thing, the Mean
Girls. That's a long time since we've seen them.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
The girl gang.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they're all flying forward towards the Black King.
I don't know. Is that what they're called? The Mean Girl Gang?
We named them that last season because they look so fierce and they look like they're in high school and they're just walking down the hallway and they're in full control and everyone's like scared of them.
I like it. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Harry and Gary and Freddie would feel about being called the Mean Girls. But
they're all girls' names. Harriet's like Harriet.
Yeah, it's true.
Gary
Gary
is...
bit dodgy.
No, that one fails there. But Freddie is.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I can't remember the name for.
Eddie is the one.
Yeah,
Edwina,
yeah, as well.
Yeah.
But names aside, the whole point is that, White just wants to, with his last move at least, OK, he has gone for it. Wow, pushing his pawns forward. It's a trio right now, but White just wants to throw these pawns forward, firstly to destabilise the white pieces, the black pieces. Black's knight will be kicked away to an inferior square, but also he will want to launch a pawn storm against the Black King. All of the pawns will just continue marching forward, even sacrificing just to open up lines against this guy.
But I have a question for you both about Sevian's approach here. Now, it's pretty wild and sharp, very, very quickly. Mamedyarov, he thrives in these kind of complicated positions. Good strategy, bad strategy?
I'm really impressed by Sam all over. I mean, first of all, I thought his interview, was great. I mean, it was just nice to see someone positive, but it was great. And I think he's enjoying himself. I mean, he's already qualified, so he's just pushing the pawns, having some fun, and he plays aggressive chess. He loves attacking. So, I mean, Mamedyarov must be enjoying this a lot as well, because he could have picked something a lot more boring. But we got an interesting position. But this is certainly the key idea, I think, now. Can Black strike in the centre before White's king gets safe? So this is a key idea that we're going to see. And I'm wondering about that, David, on the next move, or whatever White recaptures with. Yeah,
I think you're right. This is critical. Normally, White would want to take back with the queen in order to get ready to castle. If White gets one more move, White is doing fantastic. Just getting the king to safety on the long side, opposite side castling, for example, here. And White just has a free hand. White's clearly ahead in the race to attack. But as Simon mentions, the problem is you're one move away from castling. Black can strike now, and Black will open up the centre by force, hitting the queen, and just next move maybe capturing this pawn. If we see a trade of pawns, then this is only going to open up lines for Black. Also, while the black pawn attacks the white queen, this guy is also hanging twice. It's attacked by Black's knight and by Black's bishop. So maybe in the current position, if we go back, maybe taking with the bishop is the most sensible. And after White, OK, he has taken with the queen. Wow, really maximalist approach. I was going to say here, after the black pawn steps forward, at least you could retreat But in the current position, after queen takes, he stepped back anyway. He's offering up this pawn.
I like what he's done because rather than give Mamedyarov the initiative, which we know Mamedyarov loves attacking, he's saying, nope, I'm going to give you a pawn. I want the initiative. He's saying, take my pawn. I'm going to castle. I'm going to use that open file where I've lost that pawn, sacrificed that pawn. So I think it's a clever idea, at least.
And he has a beautiful square as well for the white knight to jump into. A nice outpost in the centre of the board. You're right, Simon. I mean, this is why I don't play open Sicilians with white. Sometimes I forget, oh, you can just sacrifice pawns for time, for open files, for initiative. And in the current position, if this pawn is captured, then that might only favour white. Sevian would love to be the one attacking against the great attacker himself, Mamedyarov.
And remember, this probably is, well, it is a must-win situation for Shakhriyar and Mamedyarov, because if it is a draw, then Mamedyarov will be on the same score as Weiyi, and Weiyi has better tie-breaks than Mamedyarov. So it is a must-win situation for Mamedyarov.
It absolutely is. And up until Black captured that pawn with the knight, this position had been played 3 times. No one had dared capture that pawn. Everyone else had just kind of played a little bit more quietly. They'd traded pawns and the game just continued. In fact, everyone had drawn. Wow. Here, we are seeing just absolute madness because, yeah, like you say, it's going to be war. The kings are going to go to the opposite side, and White's knight has the ability to jump into a great central square. And, well, it's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Fire on the board.
Yeah, I mean, Mamedyarov, we could never kind of question him for his courage because taking this pawn is so brave.
Probably the bravest player around, I'd say, Mamedyarov, just the way he plays chess.
Level, at least.
I mean, he's incredibly brave, isn't he?
You're pretty brave, Simon, on the board.
Well, I'm not top level, though. I'm about 10 tiers below that.
You give pawns, pieces, and then...
That's normally because I don't see they can be captured, but apart from that, so, yeah. No, I mean, I'd love to play like Mamedyarov. I mean, he's so much fun to watch, and he's going for it here. I'm kind of a little bit surprised by, I have to admit, what Sam's just done there, because he can't castle now. It looked more obvious to me. OK, he's kept his dark square bishop, which can be a very good piece, but it's all about king safety.
Yeah.
And I would have just castled queenside without thinking in the position there. So I'm a little bit surprised because what's he going to do with his king now? I mean, it seems a bit peculiar to me to do this.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's illegal now to castle through the check. And how do you get rid of this bishop? I mean, surely his idea is not to castle this side because suddenly his king gets in the way.
Yeah.
His idea, after all, is to just push this pawn. This looks so weird. Maybe his idea is to try and catch this bishop on some awkward squares. Maybe he wants to slide his queen across to attack it. And, I mean, this does allow a check as well. I mean, suddenly it looks a bit scary, the 2 black bishops coming to life. But I guess he could just drop his bishop back and block. This is really fascinating, kind of strategic pawn sacrifice where he's just trying to get a square for his knight. He's saying, I don't even need to rush. At some point soon, if we go back to this current position, at some point soon, the rook will enter the g-file anyway.
Do you think he's going to actually live with his king in the centre? So I could see lines where the king could, like, hide itself on d2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe.
And just kind of go, yeah, well,
So
I'm safe.
For example, in a line like this,
Yeah.
maybe you move your... because you can't castle, that's illegal, castling through the check. Just move your king up. Black moves, you move your rook across, you threaten some checkmate, and when black defends, then you say, OK, I'm going to go hide now. Castling by hand, they call it.
Right, it took a long time, but,
Got there in the end.
He got there in the end, and the king was not threatened on the journey, so why not? And
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's very creative play, definitely.
We have 2 games have finished, and 2 important games as well. Giri winning against Hans Niemann to secure his spot in the quarterfinals. The tilt just continued for Niemann, and that game was over after only 15 minutes. A win, or only 10 minutes actually, for Anish Giri. And also a draw for Levon Aronian against Jan-Krzysztof Duda. So that also secures a spot for Levon in the quarterfinals. Shakhriyar can only get 21 points. So that means Levon is ready for quarterfinals. Duda also has secured the 3rd spot in the preliminaries, and he will then face whoever ends up in 6th place in the preliminaries. All right, it was dramatic for Levon and Anish for a time there, but, well, they are experienced and they have managed to secure a spot in the knockouts.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? The cream always rises to the top. They always find a way, the top players, even if they're not in good form. That's the true sign of a champion, just grinding out those results, even if you're struggling to kind of hit your best level.
Yeah. So now who we are really keeping an eye on is this game. Mamedyarov must win for him. Weiyi, he needs points because if both Mamedyarov and Weiyi loses, then Aryan can come from behind and take that final spot in the knockouts. So we're keeping an eye on that as well.
Yeah, this one, the more I look at it, the more I really like Sam Sevian's idea. Just, really creative, just giving up a pawn, blocking the centre, giving up the right to castle. It's kind of going against everything we're taught. But I like the fact he's doing this against someone as creative as Mamedyarov, just not being afraid to kind of use his own methods against him. This is the kind of thing I'd be expecting to see colours reversed, Mamedyarov on the white side.
Yeah.
Look at that thinking from Samuel.
That's a new one.
Absorb all the power from the world champions hanging on his wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had some great pictures, didn't he, yesterday? I particularly like the one of Petrosian, actually.
He said there were other world champions hanging on the walls as well, so maybe next time we can ask him to get pictures from the other side. OK, meanwhile, a check.
Yeah.
Do you reckon he's got a picture of you on the wall, David?
I doubt it. I don't think I'm a world champion, unfortunately.
No.
I think that's the only way to be worthy to qualify to be on his wall.
Except you have a picture of David on your wall.
Not just a picture, duvet covers, pillow covers, coffee cups, beer glasses, napkins, toilet roll.
I thought it was our little secret, so...
Well, you know.
That's such a good trolling comment there. Just when David was riding high, brings him back down to earth. OK, so now we're seeing a trade of bishops. And talking about people's homes, well, Anas Edichari has sent us a picture and says watching the show still helps to kill time after reaching home when your family is on vacation. Oh. So a big shout out to Anas, who is watching in Dubai. And if you two want to send us your pictures, where you're watching the show from, who you're watching the show with, or just any comments on who you're cheering for, then please tweet us using the hashtag ChessChamps and we will feature them on the show.
Yeah. What do you guys think of this exchange of dark squared bishops? Who does it favour?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I was thinking here, David, is if I was black, I'd kind of want to get the queens off, I think now, because I'm getting really scared about my king at this moment. Oh, wow, this is more Mamedyarov, isn't he? Like, creating that play in the centre. I thought he'd impose a queen exchange, but this is, well, I mean, OK, the computer doesn't like it by looking at the bar, but... Yeah. Wow, I mean, I don't know what's going on. I'll be honest, I'm completely confused.
I mean, this is why we love Mamedyarov, because he's always surprising us, always playing these enterprising moves. I mean, this is what we call not the queen move, but this pawn move, this is what we call an invisible move, where it looks like it's impossible. It's not on most people's radar because, I mean, this square is covered by a white knight, a white pawn. It's not covered at all for black. But often those are the best types of moves in chess where you actually break your opponent's coordination. All of your opponent's army are focused on one square. So you push a pawn, you give something up on that square, and not all your opponent's pieces can take and capture on that square. So they actually lose a bit of coordination. But here, unfortunately, white doesn't have to react. I guess his idea after the white knight took the pawn was to jump in with the black queen and attack this guy. But yeah, this would still have been unclear. Sam Sevian, I'm just really surprised he reacted so quickly because I would have been tempted to remove this pawn from the board anyway. Instead, he shuffles his rook across and now attacking this bishop. The question now for Mamedyarov, does he react? Does he have to take a timeout and defend? I think he does, because if he pushes his pawn forward trying to counterattack, hitting the white knight, then white knight can simply jump forward, hitting the black queen.
That would just be a catastrophe for black.
I mean, moving this bishop just, I don't know, it seems like things have gone really wrong now. I mean, why can't you take the pawn with the knight? I mean, like, take the pawn, attack the queen, threaten some checks, and... If
the queen moves now, if you mentioned a check, I mean...
Yeah, and then... Yeah. But is this so clear? because after all, the black queen does get a few checks in.
Yeah, the king moves. The king, that's the only legal move there. The black pawn was pinned, so it could not capture the white knight, so the king moves. You mentioned a couple of checks here, Jovanka. This is one check. The queen moves. I guess you have another check on the edge of the board. We're going to find out, maybe. White will be a knight up in this type of situation. The white king won't be able to castle. Actually, here, maybe the knight is trapped. So, for example, if the knight steps back, it doesn't feel like enough compensation here for black. White is a knight up for just one pawn.
Do you know what? I was going to suggest white after queen c4, which is maybe not the best move on the board. I was thinking, yeah, queen h4, bring it in a little bit nearer. But there's a bit of a downside to that move, so there's just a slight problem with it.
Oops.
Yes, whoops, indeed.
I like the idea, Simon, going for the attack.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of trying to set up a rook takes g7, leading to checkmate, but this is simple, and we think probably just good, right? I mean, why not take the bishop?
It's a check. King has to move. White is just a whole piece up now. Computer confirms, +3 for white. And black can grab one pawn, but white will just block. No more counterplay. Let's see the players, because has Mamajorov just blundered? Is he shaking his head? What has he missed? Actually, white here doesn't even need to move the queen. Maybe you just shuffle your king across one square. Go behind the white queen. You're pretty safe there too.
Yeah, he's totally safe. And if Shaq loses this, he will have lost all his games today.
Every single game today?
Every single game today.
If he just won one of the three, or even if he just drew one of them.
He would have been safe.
Wow.
And instead, you know, it just went totally wrong.
Oh, dear.
Bad days happen in chess.
I've seen a few tilts lately.
Yeah.
I really have.
And we saw that with Hans Niemann, you know, also collapsed today. You know, he seemed very confident during the beginning of the tournament, where he tweeted, where he said, "No words needed today, only action." It was a very confident tweet, but it wasn't enough just to turn things around.
And I guess you could see it in the last round here, losing in 10 minutes to Anish Giri. He was just finished.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And like Simon and David say, it just happens. You know, you can't sometimes will your way to win games. And, well, Shaq will try as hard as he can to create some mess on the board. If he can do that, you know, he has one hope, and that is White's king is, like, terribly exposed.
But
has a lot of protection, but it's exposed.
What is the threat? I didn't see it.
There is no threat.
Maybe White's rook can just go and capture a pawn. What am I missing? Just White's rook on the g-file.
That's got a nasty threat behind it as well. I mean, it may be worth just showing that cheeky little idea if you take the pawn. For example, if rook interposes.
Yeah, rook. Can
you do it here?
He's played it.
We're going to see it, actually.
Because now the threat is rook takes pawn with a check. The king is trapped, has to take. And now knight fork. It's actually a family fork, hitting the king, hitting the queen, and the rook. A royal fork is the term, I think. And how else do we stop this? We might see a result any moment soon, because rook takes pawn is on the cards. Okay, Shaq decides he can cover this square at least, so the knight can't deliver a nasty check there. I guess Shaq's idea is to line up his two rooks and then try to come down into White's position, but it still takes a while. What can Sevian do in the meantime? I mean, one obvious move at some point is to just move the rook across, shuffle the rook into the game.
I mean, the problem with Shaq's position is he's a piece down and getting mated, which is pretty bad, yeah.
White is a piece up and has the attack.
Yes, that's quite serious.
And that's compensation.
Yeah, piece up with the attack and compensation. So
yeah.
Well, just an update then on the qualification situation. So if this is a loss for Shakhriyar, it looks like it will be. And Weiyi plays a draw. We can see the bar in that game against Richard Report is all the way in the middle. Well, then, with a win, Aryan Tari will be the player going through to the knockout stage on the same score as Weiyi, but with better tie breaks. I think I said earlier today, well, Aryan Tari, he is out of the tournament. He's not. He has really fought his way back. And I think the bar is slightly over to Aryan's side against Arjun Erigaisi. Oh, and it actually went further up there.
Wow. That'd be amazing. I mean, if he qualifies, that'd be one of the most shocking results of the day, right?
Really?
So,
yeah.
And I'm sure he did this last time. He did exactly the same thing. I think he won or got a very good draw, and he won nearly all his games on the last day to qualify. So he's the comeback kid. But yeah, that'll be very, very interesting to see that game after this one is finished.
Yeah, we'll jump straight to that when this one finishes. Looks like Samuel Sevian will win it.
He's very close now. The White King is under check, but he just needs to find a safe haven for it. And the extra White Knight will count. Black has no real tricks, no real traps to set. I'm just struggling to even see an idea for Black. Maybe Black's only idea, the only saving hope, is to bring the rook across on the 6th rank to go and attack White's knight. Just hope for some tricks there, but I think White has multiple ways to neutralise that one. Yeah, Mamedyarov, it's a difficult situation to be in.
Is he smoking?
Yeah, I thought it was smoke as well. It was water.
Some water.
Really? I thought he was like, it's just like, this
Blowing
is it.
like smoke out. I thought the same thing.
It's the blurry background makes the water look like smoke.
Right, OK. I was like, wow, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess there's no rules against that in online chess.
Yeah.
And I bet like 20 years ago, if this tournament with players sitting at home was happening, we would see a bunch of them smoking.
Very normal.
When did smoking at the board become forbidden? Because I can remember happening when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. It was a common thing, and I remember my father would always ask my opponents, don't smoke at the board as a child. But then it suddenly stopped, maybe around early 90s, I want to say.
Probably around then, yeah. So
Late 80s, early 90s, maybe?
Yeah.
Because when I was young, it's been banned for a few years already.
Yeah.
But, I guess maybe a perk of online chess. You can vape, you can do anything you want, you can...
And maybe he needs to smoke now, Shahryar Mamedyarov. He was apparently on 80% chance to qualify after round 12. And here we are a few rounds later, and he is about to be knocked out of the tournament.
Is there some chance now?
I mean...
With this move?
How is he...
Some chance?
I mean, what's the trick, can I see? Because the knight is being attacked, and the knight can't move because it's defending the rook. But the rook can just take a step backwards. And, Black still has an attacking move. Can push the pawn forward. Oh.
He's just...
Some chances here now. I mean, OK, he's got the piece back, right? I mean, that's...
Very odd stuff.
Something, yeah. I mean...
He gave back his extra knight. I guess he's 2 pawns up here.
Yeah.
Should still be quite straightforward win, but... Yeah, you're right, Simon. It's unnecessarily giving up most of the advantage, or half the advantage at least, of the extra White knight. So queen's off the board, knight given back, but 2 extra pawns for White. If the White king gets active, it should be a win. Black's king is meanwhile passive. Black's rooks are passive, staring at a very strong white pawn. But yeah, maybe there was a smoother way to winning this game. It feels like Sam Sevian just took the human approach. It's like a maths equation, just simplified it down. Why have a huge bunch of numbers, even if you're completely winning? Just make it as easy as possible, but...
Obviously still winning. I mean, two pawns up, but, it's a bit of work to do still, at least now.
We've seen weirder things happen than a rook in game 2 pawns down being drawn, so...
Yeah, the white rook on the side is very out of play, at the moment, at least, so you can, as Black, try to play against this. I mean... Some chances. And just to be clear, if Mamedyarov does draw, does he qualify? Do we know?
Then chances.
At least some chances.
OK, right.
Because then he will be on the same score as... No, actually, no. Because he will then be on the same score as Weiyi, and Weiyi has better tie breaks. No, so he needs to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
OK.
Right.
That's a
bit depressing.
Big task to win this one, 2 pawns down. But then again, we have seen stranger things happen. OK. Well, Sam has to defend the pawn that's under attack, so I'm predicting that he just pushes the B pawn 1 or 2 squares forward.
Yep, you can push that pawn anywhere, simply, and any safe square looks good. There we go. 1 square is maybe the safer of the options. Now, OK, another pawn is attacked, but this is easily defended by the king. Slightly odd choice of square, going back. But I guess White's king is going to shuffle to safety. White's king is going to go across and hide behind all of its pawns. And then the other white rooks, they will try and coordinate.
must be very frustrating for Mamedyarov because, like, he probably knows he has to win this game then.
Yeah.
And he tried in the opening, then he was losing. And now it's like, OK, my position's got better. I can't really resign this kind of position. I kind of want to resign, but now I'm not even a piece down. I've got to play on. He's kind of missed his opportunity to resign because he can't, you know, he can't resign now and he can't really win now. So it's like...
I mean, there's still $250 on the line for a draw.
That's true, true. That's got a lot of money. So
a draw and a loss, might not save him either way in the tournament, but a little bit of extra pocket money.
Quite a nice bit of pocket money. So, yeah.
And, OK, a bit of a threat. Black's rook was threatening to take the white b pawn due to a pin, but white's king now on the ideal square. And this check...
OK, now
it's going to end the game.
I say that and he resigns.
Yeah, white was about to win a third pawn, the black king in big trouble, and Mamedyarov resigns.
Wow, that means Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, he is knocked out of the tournament. It also means Samuel Sevian could take the win in the preliminaries if Arjun Nergaisi is not able to win his game. And, well, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, he had a 80% chance of qualification to the knockout stage after round 12. Arjan Tari, he only had a 0.2% chance to qualify. Look at this. This was heading into today. 0.2% chance for Arjan Tari. And now, if he wins this game and Weiyi does not win his game, well, then Arjan will be ready for the quarterfinals. The bar has been over to the Norwegian side, but now it's roughly to the middle. What do you think, David?
Yeah, it does look roughly balanced. Right now, it's same number of pieces, same number of pawns. White has a bit more space. If you look in the centre, on the fourth rank especially, white has 3 pawns there. So, great space. You control a lot of squares, but you also have some targets. Black's pieces here, the black queen and the black knight, they are eyeing up white's central pawn, the e4 pawn. So it's that kind of balance again. It's great space, but great responsibility. And can Aryan hold together everything? If anyone, I would slightly prefer white's chances. I think I would pick white here, but it's anyone's game.
How about the clock situation? Only 3 minutes and 45 seconds for Aryan, a lot more time for Arjun.
Yeah, that could be potentially worrying. Arjun, in general, he's a very quick player, so he always seems to have a time advantage. When I've played him a few times, he always seems to end the game with just as much time as he started it with. But yeah, either way, Aryan might slightly go astray, might start to panic a bit if his clock ticks down further.
Yeah. And is it tempting for Aryan to be impulsive in this type of position? Because, you know, generally we look kind of, when you're playing white, it's all about control here. Oh, but having said that about control, it's Arjun who has broken out. He wants to open up some lines, and when there is some opening in the position, well, usually chaos gets initiated.
How has he broken out? Oh,
Did he
retreated. That pawn was already there, so he's retreated his knight. So still some tension, yeah, on the queen side. Potentially some pawn trades happening on the c-file.
Yeah, maybe he could have broken out with d5 or something last move, but I think this is the kind of position where if white can play this f pawn up one square at the right time, you suddenly get a big attack, but it's really hard to play that move.
Yeah.
So I think this is why white's now concentrating on other areas of the board. And
yeah, he would love to play this right, Simon, but unfortunately this walks into a pin. So you mentioned concentrating on the other side of the board. Do you like this exchange? Trading here, and has this happened in the game? Now he's looking at this pawn, he's looking at this pawn.
I'd still rather be white here, I think, honestly, because you have a bit more pressure against black's pawns in the middle, and you always have that break we mentioned at the right moment. I think black's king could be more exposed now that black's lost the bishop, the fianchetto bishop in front of it. It's always a bit weaker. So I think slightly, I prefer white here. So he's got chances to qualify still.
Yeah, it feels like white is the one asking the questions, at least. White is the one creating the threats, hitting these pawns. Black is the one who has to guard against the ideas. I heard a ding, but I didn't see a move. What has Arjun played? He does need to defend this pawn. I'm just struggling to work out how. Maybe he needs to just move his queen up one square, guard along this way. Maybe he can counterattack against this pawn at some point later using his rook. Lots of ideas here for black. But yeah, definitely I would choose white here. I think the momentum is at least with Tari.
Ooh, all right. Well, we're joined by the player currently on top of the table, could be about to win the preliminaries, Samuel Sevian. Congratulations on a fantastic first 4 days in the tournament and ready for quarterfinals.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
How are you feeling right now?
I mean, I'm feeling great. I wanted to keep it simple today, just play 3 solid games and get ready for tomorrow. And I had some interesting fights nonetheless.
Definitely. What did you think of that last game against Mamadjaro? Because he was in a must-win situation, so that was dramatic for him.
Yeah, I saw that he wasn't having the best day, but I know, I mean, he's a very creative and sharp player, and he was going to try with the black pieces, so I decided to go for a fight, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And it could actually be quite crucial, right, to take first place in the preliminaries, because if you do that, you will face either Weiyi or Aryan Tari if Aryan wins this game in the quarterfinals. But if Arjun wins this game and takes first place, well, then you face Levon Aronian in the quarterfinals. And obviously there is a difference there. Who would you prefer?
Well, I'd like to win the preliminaries, of course. I think in a match format, it doesn't really matter who you're facing because both players will prepare pretty deeply, I think, for 4 games. And, you know, it doesn't really matter who I face.
Okay. Well, and Levon, do you know him quite well, both being on the American team, if it is him that you play in the quarterfinals?
I do know him, but we haven't really played much Blitz and Rapid games together, so it should be interesting.
Aha. Now, how about if it is Aryan or Weiyi, both young players, a few years older than you? Do you have experience with them as well?
I've played Aryan a few times in classical chess, and I haven't played Weiyi in a very long time, so it would be a very interesting match.
Cool. And obviously, the quarterfinal and the knockout format, very different. There's these matches with potentially tie breaks, Blitz and Armageddon. How will that be different for you? Will you have a different strategy going into tomorrow?
I'll probably do the same things, except I'll prepare more seriously for one opponent because I'm just playing one player. And I'll probably play a few Blitz games in case it does go to Blitz tiebreak.
Fantastic. Now, you've played some fantastic chess, only lost 1 game in the preliminaries, just an incredible performance. How is everyone around you reacting to your amazing performance against the elite players in the world, your family, your friends?
Yeah, my family is extremely happy with how I'm playing this tournament. I mean, they're very encouraging after every game. I go talk to them. It's been very good.
Absolutely. Now, Samuel, we wish you best of luck in quarterfinals tomorrow as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
What a player. He's been on fire, Samuel Sevian, in the preliminaries, and tomorrow he goes into the knockout stage facing either Levon Aronian if Arjun Ergaizi wins this game, or Aryan Tari if he wins this game, actually, and Weiyi plays a draw. And it looks like that right now. I mean, all scenarios possible still.
Definitely all scenarios possible, and it's heating up in this game. What do you think about this last move, guys? Pushing a pawn for black. Looks like a temporary pawn sacrifice, but is this Arjun playing for the win? Is this just trying to mix it while Aryan Tari's low on the clock?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like black's maybe taking a bit more control now. If you look at black's pieces, black is quite well lined up. The queen's active, the knight and rook are pointing towards the centre. And I mentioned that the black king, to me, seemed weaker than white's king, but I can now see the white king getting itself in quite a lot of trouble because it's those dark squares. You always look for weakened squares in the position. You can see there's a couple of squares in white's position which are weak. So I'm kind of fearing now for Aryan. He has to play very well now to win this game.
Yeah, to even hold this game, maybe, Aryan. The whole reason I think that Arjun Ergaizi had sacrificed the pawn is because after knight takes here, then actually there are several tempting options, but at the very least the black queen could kick this knight, and when the knight moves, then the black knight can jump forward, and as Simon mentioned, he's got some targets. It could maybe jump into some of these squares a bit later on. So instead of that, we saw Aryan take a safety-first approach, maybe stepping back with the queen, unless he's aiming to creep into black's camp, black's position over here. If I were Ergaizi here, I would not even be thinking. I would just be lifting the black king up 1 square. It's just a very typical type of move to stop any infiltration from the white queen. I'm not sure that's even a threat, to be honest, but either way, black has targets now. This is one isolated pawn that is going to be tying down a white piece forever to defend it, but also a backward pawn that maybe he could stare down at later. Strategically and dynamically right now, it feels like black is slightly taking control. And yeah, that's not good news for Ariantari. I especially don't like this rook tied down defending a mere pawn.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a scary position, actually. I really like your king move. Safety first for the time being, and as you say, those weaknesses are probably going to be telling, not necessarily now, but at a later stage. And, I mean, is there any way that Ariane can do some repair work and try... I feel like not repair work is perhaps the wrong word. He needs to go on the offensive, actually.
But how? Black's king is so rock solid. So many pawns and knights around it. No weaknesses.
I mean, black's just got the extra pawn to protect it compared to white's king. So I think it's white's king which is going to be in a lot of trouble at some point here.
Yep, so now the black queen attacked this pawn. Now white's queen and rook are both tied down, defending it. Now again, yep, he just moves his king. This is a very typical type of maneuver. Just protect everything. Now the king is protected by its pawns, but it also protects its own knight, for example. And sooner or later, at the moment the black rook's tied down defending this pawn, but sooner or later the black rook will activate. And that could be devastating. I just don't even see a productive move for white. Ariantari doesn't really either, so he pushes a pawn. These guys are protected, but what's next? For example, if black just waits, moves a rook, what do you do next with white? Do you just have to wait as well?
I think white has to wait on that particular square because, you know, it's a fantastic square because the queen can jump to g5 at a later stage. Now there's no point, but it could attack a pawn, and then, you know, maybe he can even think about, you know, moving the knight to h4 and trying to initiate some kind of murkiness there on the right side.
Yep, maybe going for the black king. So with that white square in mind, Ariantari now has to answer this move from Arjun. Arjun is looking at this pawn, but he's also saying a queen exchange might not favour you. Wow, queen takes pawn. We do see a trade here, and white has a passed pawn, but also an isolated one. Who is this going to favour? If this pawn drops off, white is in big, big trouble, but it could be a potential winner if it marches forward. Interesting change in dynamics there. I would never have dreamt of kind of going for that trade, I must admit, as black, unless I had something concrete now, something specific. But white has a move. Arian drops his queen back. I like this one. Pushing the pawn next, maybe, but also eyeing up this weak square, maybe with a knight next move.
It's not so easy, actually, for Arjun, because as you've highlighted, black has to also be careful about what he's going to do. He can't go there chasing waterfalls, you know, just doing whatever he wants to do on this queen and rook. He has to always look after the king.
Yeah, it just feels like black was impatient. He should have kept those pawns on the board, the pawns that disappeared on these squares a bit earlier. Okay, now he's still doing fine, Arjun, but I think he had a big advantage.
Does the result? I'm just looking at the scores there as well, and it looks like Richard is maybe going to win that game against Weiyi.
Does that affect things?
Do we think,
No, it doesn't actually, because Weiyi will still have 19 points and Arian has 17. He still has to win, and no one else is in a position to go past Weiyi on 19 points. Okay. The only thing that can change things is if Arian wins this game.
There's no other way.
Very nice.
You're
very
kidding
nice.
The only way is to win. Sorry, I'll stop now.
Way to go, David.
Thank you.
Have you been watching Mandalorian? That is the way.
Yeah. Yes, I have spoken. Yes, so right now, I like where Arjun's put his queen, actually, the black queen, very active. We talk about rooks behind passed pawns. Black's queen is behind white's passed pawn. So Arian kicks the queen. Ooh, okay, if we'd seen white's rook retreat there, we could have seen a repetition of the position, but Arian finds a way to play for a win. He doesn't try to repeat. And, ooh, his pawn is dropping, however. Maybe this game is fizzling towards a draw.
But he must know he has to win.
Yeah, he shook his head there. He definitely knows he has to win.
Yeah. I mean...
Not much hope, though. His pawn has disappeared. White's only remaining chance. The queens have come off the board as well.
He's actually agreed a draw already. I mean, you play on a bit, don't you? Just in case. I mean,
exactly. He could have kept the queens on the board for at least 2-3 moves longer.
Yeah.
No risk. But he's gone for the draw, and he's out.
That means Ariantari is out, that's correct, with this draw. And it also means Weiyi is ready for the quarterfinals, even if he is still playing. It doesn't matter if he loses that game against Richard Report, he will play the knockout stage quarterfinals. And it also means now Samuel Sevian is definitely the winner of the preliminaries in first place. Arjun Erigaisi takes second place. Now, before we went into this game, David, I saw the bar was all the way over to Arjan's side. Could he have won this game at some point?
Yeah, I think there was no clear win. He had an advantage for most of the middle game. The opening went really well for Arjan, but there was no knockout blow. So the evaluation bar, for example, in a position like this, just loved White's position because Black is cramped and Black has no plan. I think where it started to go wrong for Arjan was actually where we jumped in, or just before we jumped in. In a position like this, he should start manoeuvring slowly at the right time to start pushing this pawn forward, kicking away Black's knight. Then, as Simon indicated, trying to push this pawn forward as far as possible. But computers, they love these types of positions for White. White has all the space. Black, at the moment at least, cannot push this pawn, cannot push this pawn. Black is completely stuck. So this type of position, I think it was just about understanding. And Arjan, of course, understands these positions very well, but he just chose the wrong way to pursue the advantage. And if we just fast forward the next few moves, it feels like he didn't really do much. White just retreating a bishop, moving a rook. The next move, just moving his queen, and again, moving the queen back. It felt like Arjan was too worried about making his move, pushing forward, and in the end, we saw things fizzle out. It was maybe at the wrong moment that he pushed this pawn forward, and as we saw later, a bunch of trades happen, and the game was eventually a draw.
So close for Ariantari, starting the day with 0.2 chance to qualify, but eventually he could have secured a spot with a win in that game. But the Norwegian, he is out. Some games still going on in this final round in the preliminaries, but we do know all 8 players that are ready for the quarterfinals, and both of these will play tomorrow in the knockout stage. Richard Report is ready, and Weiyi, even with a loss, will take that crucial 8th place in the preliminaries. But this game, what's happening?
Yeah, so it's knight and 3 pawns against knight and 3 pawns, level material. But the quality of White's pawns is a bit higher right now. White has more space in the centre, but also White's H-pawn, Harry, is a potential winner. Black's knight is maybe going to struggle to stop that one later on. Knight struggle against those rook's pawns. White's king has an easy path as well towards the black pawns, but it doesn't feel like it should be winning with best play. It feels like there are too few pawns left on the board. What do you guys think about the winning chances for Report, for White?
Yeah, I mean, I agree basically what you say there. I mean, it's trickier for Black to play. It's very, in knight endings, the strongest pass pawn you can have is the rook's pawn, which White has on the side of the board, because you can't stop that pawn with your knight from both sides. The knight can't jump off the board. White's king is more active. We see the king coming in. So it's a little bit tricky to defend, right? I think Black's just got to try to make as many exchanges as he can. And I feel that this...
But wait one second.
Whoa, this is interesting.
What happened there? Because the bar just went totally in White's favour.
Really sneaky move there from Richard Report, offering a knight trade. If the knights disappeared from the board, White is simply winning. White's outside pass pawn, the H-pawn, will win the game, so Weiyi had to avoid that knight trade. But now knight takes pawn check, and tricky decision. Do you kind of move to a defensive square, guard your own pawn as Black? Do you keep guarding the D-pawn? Or do you go active with your king? OK, he goes passive, but now White's pawn is ready to roll.
Yeah.
Isn't it going to go right now?
It looks completely winning now. I mean, it's this rook's pawn. The rook's pawn against the knight is so strong, and White's knight is in such a good place. The white knight is defending that pawn. It's stopping the black king coming over, and that pawn's just going to keep running.
What a trick by Richard Report.
Yeah,
what a crafty move that he set up.
I mean, he's still got to win this. And
still not easy at all.
No, but he's going to force that knight back and then use his king, I guess, is what he's going to try to do here.
Well, the thing is, though, the knight can be forced to the edge of the board, and then after that,
you just use your king.
Just use your king, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The black knight will not be able to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, black's king is a bit stuck as well. As soon as the black king moves away, the white king goes towards the black d-pawn. Yeah, you're so close to eliminating those two white pawns, but you can't eliminate both. Only one of them.
It's going to be zugzwang, actually, isn't it? With the black king having to allow the white king in, you might even lose both your pawns as black here. So, very crafty trick there.
Yeah, and he defends his pawn with a king, but is there any tricky moves that black can play with his knight? Because I'm thinking, hey, let's just challenge it. And it's happened, and the knight has been forced to the edge of the board, and here it comes. The white king goes to the edge, and there's nothing that black can play.
Yeah, king, if it moves, loses a pawn. Black's knight, if it moves, gives ground.
Yeah, this is quite instructive.
Yeah. This position belongs in endgame books, right?
Yeah.
Grind like a grandmaster.
So you expect it to be over very soon, this game?
It will be over.
Possibly Weiyi under 10 seconds as well, in almost a hopeless position now.
7.
Look how badly the knight does against a rook's pawn. Black's knight just completely struggling. Now white's knight jumps in, guards the square that black knight previously sat on, and yeah, look at this black knight. It's stuck. It's going to be hiding out in the corner. What else can you do?
Yeah, and the same technique is going to happen again, right?
Yeah, it's just, I mean...
He's going to move his knight and just force he's going to maneuver his knight to the h6 square, and after that, the black knight can't move.
But how do you maintain zugzwang? The problem with knights is you can't lose a move. So you have to lose a move with white with your knight or with your king. But it's not 100% easy to do so. OK, still a little bit of hard work left.
Maybe we should just go for the simple chess, which is just to maneuver the knight to give a check to the black king and then win that.
Yep. That's step 1. Win one of the black pawns. Step 2, kick away the black king even further.
All right, well, as this game goes forwards, we are joined by Arjun Erigaisi, finishing in 2nd place in the preliminaries. Congratulations with 4 fantastic days of chess, Arjun.
Hi, thank you. It was really great.
Yeah, how you feel about the way you played these 4 days?
Obviously, there was some luck, but I was overall happy with the way I was playing.
And finishing in 2nd place, you will now probably face Levon Aronian. Well, I think we can say that you definitely will face Levon Aronian in the quarterfinals tomorrow. You did that as well last year in the Gold Money Asian Rapid. What do you remember from that?
Yeah, it was a very close and intense match, and I had an over-the-board tournament just 2 days after it. So it was a win-win situation for me. Even if I lost, I could go and play that tournament. And it was a very exciting situation. And now I'll try to play well again.
Yeah. We see some pictures here from last year. It's almost exactly 1 year ago, Gold Money Asian Rapid quarterfinals. Now, you did lose that match against Levon. So what will you do differently this year to beat Levon?
There's nothing particular. I think I'll just try to play the way I usually play and take it from there.
Is it very different playing that kind of a match format that you will tomorrow than the preliminaries round robin?
Yes, because I haven't played many matches, but it's always a pleasure to play against a player of Levon's caliber.
Of course. And I know it's very late in India where you are playing this tournament from. What is your routine before and after the games?
I just prepare in the afternoon a little bit and go to sleep after the matches, maybe in 2 hours. I usually sleep very late.
And Arjun, do you feel this is going to be good preparation for you ahead of the Olympiad? How excited are you to take part there?
Yeah, it will be very interesting, and I think it will be very helpful for not just for the Olympiad, but in general for my career to get to play against these world-class players. And
how do you rate India's chances? You're part of the Indian first team, right?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty strong and solid team, and also balanced a few youngsters and some experienced players. And obviously, the American team is very strong, but I do believe we have some chances.
Absolutely. And Arjun, I have to tell you, David's been praising your play so much in the studio here. And I think you even said, David, that Arjun is the player that has impressed you the most over the last year after the Gold Money Asian Rapid. How will you sum up this past year for you, Arjun, with COVID ending and finally playing some more over the board and many tournaments?
I believe before the pandemic itself, I was somewhat underrated, and I think I deserved to be 2600 then. But it didn't happen, and so I was not so surprised that I hit 2600, but the rise after that was pretty good, and Magnus mentioning that I can hit 2700 soon definitely boosts my confidence.
Absolutely. And we've been talking to your fellow Indian, Pragnananda, saying that after COVID, his confidence has really grown a lot. Do you feel the same? How do you feel about your confidence now?
Oh yeah, I think starting from Gold Money Asian Rapid, I have been a lot more confident, and it's just that I get a lot more opportunities, and that really boosts my confidence.
Absolutely, and you should feel confidence. You really impressed us with your chess, Arjun, and we wish you best of luck in the quarterfinals tomorrow. It's going to be fun to follow your games.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and have a good night's sleep. It's late in India for Arjun. Have you been impressed with him, David?
Yes. I'm running out of compliments for him. He's so composed, so calm, and clearly he's prioritizing his career, and he's doing all the right things to maximize his performances, and can't fault anyone for that.
Absolutely. Now, this game, the result won't really matter. Weiyi will still have 8th place, and Richard Report will either way take 4th place. This is the last game going on. And will Richard win it?
I think yes. Should we have a vote? It's 2 pawns now.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to have a bet on I think he's going to win it, but there's some chances.
There's some chance.
If the Black Knight can give itself up for 1 pawn and the Black King can take the other pawn, then it's a draw, obviously. That's what White has to watch out for. But I don't think he will be able to do that. But
if the Black Knight gives itself up for the White D pawn and the Black King can stop the H pawn, even if it doesn't win the H pawn, it's a draw because the Black King can hide in the corner and there'll be stalemating ideas.
I think it's going to be a draw.
Yeah,
I think so.
Would you like to have a little bet, Jovanka?
Well, why, of course.
Why, of course.
Why, of course. They go, David, what did you say? 20 seconds left.
I'll say White wins.
White wins. OK, I'm the only one.
Yeah, I think objectively we know he's winning, but from a human point of view, it's so easy to blunder and allow Black's Knight to give itself up for this White D pawn.
This looks very clever, what he's doing here, though.
Yeah. So, this is the best technique to control knights, to dominate knights. Kings or bishops, 2 squares in the middle, and then a knight. So you always want 2 squares gap away from your piece, your king, bishop, queen, pawn even, and your opponent's knight.
Sorry, I was just looking at the clock situation, and he was.
What are we betting, by the way?
No one said anything about betting something. I thought
we have to bet something.
Betting on
champagne?
Because right
hang
now,
on a second.
It's guaranteed. The White Knight is just distracting, deflecting the Black Knight, and White was about to make a new queen with his pawn. So Weiyi resigned.
It's over. A win for Richard Report to conclude the preliminaries. It is over, and 8 players have now qualified for the knockout stage. Both of these will play in the quarterfinals tomorrow. We didn't see a smile on Richard Report's face, but we rarely do. He's very critical of his own play. And wow, it's been a fun 4 days of preliminaries. Who has impressed you the most, Jovanka?
It has to be Sevian, actually.
Yeah.
I did not expect Sam to do very well, actually. I mean, well, let me rephrase that. I did not expect him to win the preliminaries.
Absolutely. He was one of the lower-ranked players.
Exactly. And, you know, to score a tremendous 32 points in such a stylistic, fantastic way, I didn't expect that. And he's completely blown me away. Also, Erigaisi, I knew he was going to be so dangerous.
Yeah.
But he's taken it another level. And also, I've been surprised by people not doing as well as I thought they would. Like Levon Aronian and Anish Giri. I thought that they would be fighting for the top spots. But they've qualified, they're there, and tomorrow we're going to have another set of quarterfinals, and everything heats up a little bit more.
We're going to take a look at the matchup. But first, let's just take a look at the results from the final round. In the preliminaries, we did have a few wins for a few players. Lenny Dominguez, that walkover win against Timur Ajabov. Anish Giri winning against Hans Niemann. And Richard Report, we saw him take all 3 points against Weiyi. Wojtacek, a win against Shankland. Both of those 2 players are knocked out. And Samuel Sevian winning against Mamadjaro to both knock Mamadjaro out of the tournament and to secure first place. In the preliminaries, look at that, 32 points. And Samuel Sevian wins the preliminaries, earning $8,000. So far, Arjun Erigaisi takes second place with 31 points. David, can either of these players win the whole tournament?
I think with their performance in the prelims, they've shown they can. Whether they can compete with their more experienced rivals in a match situation where it's one-on-one, where it's more about not losing than it is about winning, that's yet to be seen. But I definitely think the likes of Aronian, they're going to be scared of playing these youngsters. Aronian, he knows that the Erigaisi of 2022 is so much more scarier than the Erigaisi of 2021.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating to watch.
And some other young players making it through. Jan-Krzysztof, Duda, Jeffrey Shong, another debutant in the tour. The 21-year-old American is ready for quarterfinals. Shakhriyar Mamadjarov is one of the top players knocked out. But here are the quarterfinals coming up tomorrow. Samuel Sevian will face Weiyi. Richard Report against Jeffrey Shong. Jan-Krzysztof Duda against Anish Giri. Ooh, I'm looking forward to that one. Who do you hold as a favorite between those 2, Simon?
Flip a coin, pick a name. Duda, because the way he's played in the, so far in this tournament, I would say. But if Anish gets the right kind of position, then he can win as easily as Duda.
And Arjun Erigaisi, 18-year-old against Levon Aronian, the youngest against the oldest player in the tournament. Last year, Levon was quite dominant, I think I remember, in the quarterfinals.
It was close. It went down to the Blitz tiebreaks in the end. He was dominant maybe in the Blitz, but before that, Erigaisi gave him a couple of scary moments.
Who do you hold as a favorite, though, in this year?
Youth or experience?
Yeah.
That's the big question. I'll go for experience because it's a match situation, but I think it's going to be even closer than last year. I would not be that surprised if Erigaisi actually continued his great form from the prelims.
Wow. Exciting. Quarterfinals starting tomorrow with 8 fantastic chess players. And remember, the 2 players that goes all the way to the final in this tournament, they bank their spot in the next major FTX Crypto Cup coming up next month. So we still have 4 more days of chess in the FTX Road to Miami. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.